Welcome to the Hearth and Home podcast number 6, take 2. This is the actual recording because Paradox and I have already been talking for about 10 minutes, but I, like an idiot, did not hit the record setting. But guess what? This is the very first time we've made this mistake, and hopefully it will be the last one, but it definitely probably won't be because we know how I am. But in any case, today is all about Paradox. Paradox is a Masters Tour extraordinaire, I would say, because you really do qualify for all of the events. Plus, you do statistics in the when you're not actually playing in the qualifiers. But in any case, Paradox, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Clark. I can really tell you are sleep deprived because I was looking up your last Half and Home podcast, which actually was number 6. So this one is number 7.
Oh wait, I did. Oh my god,
Math isn't my strong suit.
Math is not my strong suit either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well,
but aside from correcting you, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Well, something that most people may not know about is that we've actually done a lot of casting together. So you correcting me is definitely normal, to say the least, because I say a lot of things that not necessarily aren't incorrect, but I get really excited, tunnel vision on one thing, and you're like, do we really need to do this? Or is it really that important?
Like, what about this fun idea? Yeah.
Yeah, but I will also say that you are the only person who's legitimately turned me on to the priest class. You have actually been able to explain the class to me in a way to where it's not an absolute it's not an uphill battle.
It's
for me
not
to,
a snore.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the only priest deck aside from like old fashioned Raza priest when it first came out that really made me feel like that was when we were casting like Galakron matchups, because like whenever I'm playing that deck by myself, never had fun with it. But Priest is, like, I feel like one of those classes to where when you have somebody to play it with, it's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I think Galakron and a lot of the old hero cards were sort of unique in that respect because, like, random generation inherently, like, feels boring, but then you start thinking of unique possibilities, right? Like, for example, I think there was a time you and I casted together where, like, there was Reliquary of Souls, the old Priest Prime card, and like you would have that, and then all of a sudden you get it with like Wretched Reclaimer, the 3-mana 3/3 Priest minion that destroys the minion and puts it back on the board. And like suddenly you have all these scenarios, but there was like, I think there was like 5 Reliquary Primes in one Galakron deck or something stupid like that. I don't quite remember, but there was also, now this is one that I remember more well, the boar kill. You remember that
The
one?
Huffer lethal,
With
yeah.
Highlander Mage?
Yeah, the Huffer lethal. You want to go ahead and break that down? Because I don't 100% remember what happened, but a bunch of random things happened. I think a box was involved, and then suddenly pig lethal.
I think it was just like Reno stuff, right? Like we have like Animal Companion, like missiles. I don't know, like Holy Smites, a whole bunch of damage all over the show. Like I'm sure I can find the clip for you to like put in post, but yeah, it was unique, very unique way to win as priest.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it was the mage that did it to the priest, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway,
if I could find the clip, I'll definitely put it down below so everybody can see exactly what we're talking about. But that was probably like one of the best highlights that we've had casting, and we did a lot of casting with like House Rivalries and stuff like that. And now they're doing a lot of stuff with the DreamHack organization. So like casting has just been like something that I've definitely enjoyed. But how exactly did you get into the casting scene? Because as a competitive Hearthstone player, making that jump can sometimes be a little bit difficult.
right. I was about to say this is a long story.
We like long stories
guess,
here.
we do, yes. I'd say specifically as far as like Hearthstone was concerned, like the first time I actually tried it was during the WESG Europe Finals back in 2016, where I casted a round of 12 match that was happening on stream with a Lofar back when he was actually a part of the game. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't really have any real opportunities to do that until I want to say 2017, 2018. Like I did some casting work with Starfire, but it was nothing professional. Like I was doing all the production work. There was no like proper cam, no proper mic, nothing like that. So I'd say the first time I properly started casting was back in 2018, where I met up with Bemi for the first time. Bemi was probably the person who like brought me into that sphere. Who like before House Reveries was even like properly a thing. They were running like smaller like Phoenix League tournaments, and Bemi was asking for casters, and Ekop, the old German pro player
Yeah, yeah.
who was playing the game since forever,
Since the
recommended me to
beginning.
him, I believe. Hmm?
Yeah, he's playing since the beginning. I remember watching his old like Druid clips.
Yeah. Like Ekop recommended me to Bemi, and then like me and Ekop casted together for a while, and pretty much ever since I've been working with Bemi on almost every single casting gig he does, pretty much.
Yeah, Bemi is just the absolute goat when it comes to organizing any kind of tournament event. They're doing stuff with, I think, with Valorant, Overwatch, Hearthstone, Rocket League, and one other esport that I'm forgetting. But like, Bemi's just got their hands in like literally almost every single aspect of the Hearthstone community in esports. So like, Jesus, man, like the amount of stuff that Bemi does in one day, like I think I'm sleep deprived. I don't want to know how many hours of sleep Bemi gets on a typical week.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine on that. What? No, they're definitely passionate about the game, as I know you are, and I know I am too, like varying degrees.
I mean, you need to be passionate in order to cast, because you essentially need to be able to give people the excitement of what's happening. Like, you need to be able to explain to somebody who either A, has never seen it or is not familiar with the game in order to tell them, hey, this is cool because blank and blank. Because of whatever percentage, because this is very unlikely to happen, because this is something that has never happened before. Like, you got to be able to put people in the competitive player's shoes, and that's sometimes not an easy goal to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, what would you say are the challenges in casting particularly? Not necessarily with Hearthstone, but just in general. Because we can get into Hearthstone later, because casting that is weird.
I'm probably not the best person to ask on this because I don't have that much experience like properly casting. I'm not like Lorinda, Sottle, Raven,
Yeah.
Derek Brown. I'm not that experienced. It's not my main gig. It's something that I enjoy, I have fun with, but it's not something that I'm getting paid for, that I'm getting flown out to
Yeah.
who knows where to do. Would that be an ideal path for me to take? I would say so, but obviously that's something I'd have to think about 4+ years down the line if the right opportunity presents itself. I'm obviously interested in esports. I even have this book on my desk right here that I'm reading like fairly solidly. Like, it's funny. I've actually been getting into like reading physical books quite a lot lately. Like, I mention it in the documents I write every week or so, but a friend of mine called Pascal from Brazil recommended this to me as well. The Mental
Mental
Game of
game.
Poker. Yeah, it's a very book though. Unfortunately, I haven't really had much time to properly read it. I'm about like 20 odd pages in, but I still find it a engaging read so far for sure. It's definitely something to keep me occupied when I'm like heading into the train into a town like once a week.
Oh yeah, like some of the questions I actually have on here is life in England for you, because something I always like to do whenever able is to talk about a little bit of like what it's like to live in other countries. Since living in America, things aren't as interesting as I'm sure you are somewhat aware of. Like, we have our quirks and stuff, but I feel like in terms of like cultural just like cultural awareness and just like unique unique parts of the country, I feel like the United States usually just like lacks compared to other countries. But that's just probably because I live here. So
Well, what's the saying, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. So
yeah, pretty
previously you've
accurate.
had what's it? You've had Remy from Argentina, you've had Zebby from Canada, you've had Solon from Germany, and then all of your other guests are American?
Luker was also Canadian, and Lilnenko was from America as well. So wow, I've actually only had one American on the podcast before. Huh.
Yeah. So obviously you're very much aware, right, that like English culture and American culture are very similar.
Yes.
Like I think the main difference between the UK and the United States is more of a like personality quirk, like between the two like sides of the world. Like Americans are very positive for the most part, right? Very boisterous, very energetic. Like they know what they want, they're gonna go get it, and if you say no, you're gonna be in trouble. I'd say it's a pretty accurate
Yeah.
like, way of saying like what the Americans are like. Like Canadians, I'd say, are probably like fairly close to what British people are in terms of personality, right? They're very polite, very reserved. Like they're not gonna go and outright say, "Hey, this is what we want and this is what we're gonna get." They're a bit more tame, I suppose. Like the British character, I suppose, is more of like that snarky kid in the back of the class, right? Who just he knows all the answers and he's gonna say in like the most pointed way possible to try to like get a response out of people. And European societies in general, like I think Solomir touched on this as well, like we're a lot less what's it called? A lot less social, right? Like if you
More
I'll
community
give an
based.
example for you, right? Like when you go out on like a daily trip, like are you gonna get stopped by anyone just saying like, "Hey, how's the weather?" sort of thing? Does that ever happen?
You mean by like strangers or?
Yeah.
In America, definitely not. The only time that anybody ever walks up to anybody is, "Hey, I need help," or "Hey, I know you. How you doing?" That kind of thing. So, like, case in point, when I
Yeah.
was like after my girlfriend and I went to the gym and we went to go get some carry out, I ended up running into some family friends of mine that were also going to the same restaurant as us. So, obviously, we talked for a little bit, and we were leaving while they were entering, so we didn't have to like put on a fake face for too long. But usually, kind of like what you said, if people in America know what they want and they'll go get it, and if people are in the way of that, they just will ignore them. But I'm pretty sure that's kind of popular. That's very common all over the place, where like you just do what you need to do, and you try not to bother other people. Because I feel like that's how I personally do it. Other people may see it in a somewhat darker lens, but I just don't want anybody I don't want anybody to get in my way, and I don't want to get in their way.
Yeah. That's what I say. I remember like an old like adage where like an American tourist would go into like a typical like European hostel, right? They would go into like the main like area. And he would say, "Hey guys, what's up?" And then everyone in the room would turn around and be like, "Oh, you're American, right?" And the American would be like, "How do you know?" It's like because only an American would walk into the room and say hi. Because like I was going to say, European social structures are more like just like leave it to your own devices. Just try to not bother people where you can, right? Like most of the time when you're on the underground, it's like pretty much dead silent, aside from just trying to make sure you don't like get crushed on the tube. But that's a problem Americans don't have because they don't use trains.
I mean, we have subway systems, but like that's about the closest we have to that, and I mean, kind of like a similar atmosphere where like you just sit on a place. Hopefully, people aren't being too rowdy. But that's definitely the difference in America is that like, I mean, I can't really think of like a first experience that I have because I honestly don't use the subways too much. I'm in the Midwest, so I'm not really nearby the cities that have that kind of transit. But I've been and heard stories about places like that, and there'll be like just kids being rowdy. There'll be kids just like yelling and stuff like that. Usually, if you're like in New York, for example, is the most common place to see some wackos in like the subway or whatever. So like if anything's wacky, you're just like, nope, I'm not paying attention. It's not involving me. As long as it's not involving me, I'm just gonna do my crossword puzzles. Like,
Yeah, it is funny though because I did go to New York one time for I believe it was called what was it called that Hearthstone Championship tour back then in 2018. I believe that's what it was called.
in New York.
And then yeah, no, it was in Philadelphia. So what I
Oh,
did
okay,
because
okay.
what I did to save money at the time was I realized, oh, a flight from Gatwick directly to Philly is about like 200 quid more. Quid equals pounds, by the way. £200 more than it would be for me to get a return flight from New York and then just like get a, well, I don't know what you call it actually in the United States because like most of Europe calls it metro. Like our like main system in London is called the Underground. I don't know what you call it in New York actually.
The subway system, or like the
Yeah, just like the subway. Though, funnily enough, like the entire route I took was like mostly overground. It was actually really surprising. Like I would just like get off the bus like from the plane, and I would just see like this massive like train structure, just above the road.
Yeah, some of the cities have that. I think Indianapolis actually has something very, very. It's very new, because we have a very small city. Like, I think I said this in the Solomon interview, but if you like look up like Chicago, what like a real city is like, and then you compare it to like Indianapolis, you could probably fit like 4 Indianapolises in one Chicago, and then that's not even going into like how many businesses are in there and whatnot. But like, that's becoming a lot more common, is to see those kind of structures all around the U.S., because like people just want to get to point A to point B very, very quickly, and it's even like gotten to the point where that's also popular in some airports, because you just need to get to the place as soon as possible.
Well, like just having a what's it called? Like just like an above like subway type system.
Yeah, it just works really, really effectively. But you said that you had traveled to Philadelphia before. Have there been other places that you've traveled before? Like, not necessarily in the States, but just in general?
Oh, too many to count. Where do I begin?
Oh, Paradox the
So
Traveler, eh? Huh? You're...
yeah,
I didn't know about this about you. Where'd you go, man?
so where do I start? I guess is the real question. Like ever since about the age of I want to say 10, 11-ish, I've always been interested in card games. Of course, Hearthstone is far from my first card game. I think my first card game was, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh! Because everyone's first card game was Yu-Gi-Oh!
It
as
was
a
mine
kid.
too. It was mine too.
Yeah, trading stuff on the playground. We all know that story. Well, eventually, that, of course, led me to going into my local card shop with like some friends of mine from primary and secondary school. I believe in the US it's called what, elementary and high school.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so I would go into my first card shop, play a few games, and then over time, I believe it was in the 7th grade, a friend of mine came back from this tournament in London. He was just telling me all about it. I was like, you traveled all the way to London, because we lived in Colchester at the time, which was a biggish town, biggish for UK style towns, biggish town that's about like an hour and a half from London. And I was like, you went all the way to London for a tournament? And he was like, yeah. And I got I believe at the time it was Darkham Dragon. I believe that was like the big deck at the time, Teledad. And he just came back and was like, yeah, just got Darkham Dragon, just had a good time. I was like, okay, I want to do that at some point. And this opportunity never presented itself to me until I want to say 2010. No, like March 2011, I'd say, yeah. So around, I want to say like June, July-ish 2010, my Yu-Gi-Oh collection actually got stolen from me by a few kids. Like we never knew who the exact culprit was. We had a very good idea, but we were never able to decisively confirm it.
I had a situation like that as well. My cards got stolen, so I feel that. I feel that in my heart.
Yeah, and after that point, I was just done with the game. I was like, why should I bother playing this game when my cards are going to get stolen and all of my work is going to get invalidated, which was an unfortunate feeling, but it was a learning experience. But anyway, point aside, so I was looking for another card game to play. I still liked the idea of card games. I liked playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but the mentality surrounding the game, which even to this day, from what I've seen, hasn't changed that much, is something that I don't really agree with that much. So I was just looking for another game, which that eventually led me to discovering the Pokemon trading card game for the first time. I believe, yeah. So I was playing in my local card shop, so seeing a bunch of people playing Pokemon days, and they told me in March 2011, after I had like a semi decent deck, that's like, hey, there's this regional tournament happening in London next weekend. Do you want to join in? I was like, of course I do. Yeah. Now, of course, me being me, didn't think this all the way through. Had to get my family involved to help me like travel like to and from London. I was only 14 at the time, so pretty big stretch for a 14-year-old to just take the train all the way into the middle of London. I believe the event itself was fairly close to very close to London Euston, I believe, which is a station pretty close to King's
Were you not
Cross.
going with those guys that invited you? Were you just gonna be going by yourself and then meeting up with them, or?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you just needed your own transportation.
Pretty much, yeah. And like after playing in that, I went 4-2, it's a 6 round tournament because what Pokemon does, like did and still does to this day, is they have a very interesting system. Like, you know, in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? How they have this I forget what it's called, like dragon duels or whatever, where like little kids can play against little kids rather than just like the 12-year-old tyke
Uh,
playing against like the
yes.
20 something adult.
And I can tell you about a pretty funny story about that particular rule later on, but continue. Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
kids don't get destroyed by the 30-year-old who's been playing for years, and it's like, yeah, you need that.
Yeah, Pokemon does something very similar because, of course, we all know Pokemon is a very child-friendly demographic, and so what they do is they actually put you into 3 age groups, which is the juniors division, which is for kids that are 10 and under. We have the seniors division, which is 11 to, I believe it was 15 back then. I don't know if it's like 16 now, but it was 11 to 15 at the time. Then we have the masters division, which is just everyone else. And so at the time, I was playing in the seniors division. And obviously, the seniors division is not going to be anywhere near as large as the masters division because, you know, obviously, like kids aren't going to be traveling to all of these events nearly as much as the adults are. So it was only a 6 round tournament for me. I go, I believe, 4 wins, 2 losses in Swiss, and I missed the cut at ninth.
You felt the sting early on. You felt the
I felt that
tiebreaker sting
bubble.
early on.
Yeah. And of course, with that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm committed now. It's like I travel to my first event, I have fun. The organizer, a man named John Hawkins, was actually a really, really nice. Like he is your typical like older British gentleman, you know, very kind, very, very stout figure, very you know the kind of person I'm thinking of, right?
Kinda, I think. Like, is there
As
something in
in, like
particular?
you go into a pub, right, and you just see that guy, and it's like, yeah, I want to have a drink with this guy. This guy has a few like good stories.
Ah, okay, yeah, somebody who you can tell can, like, you know, sit you down and really show you what life is about, kind of deal. Like someone that's gonna put things in
Sort of,
perspective.
yeah. And that's basically what he was about. He was, I will say this without reservation, probably the greatest like tournament host and introduction to the competitive game I have ever the experience with. Like no one has ever topped that for me. And what he did was he was like, "You're new, aren't you?" And obviously, I would hand him over my like Pokemon ID to say that yes, I am who I say I am. And he was like, "Okay, well, here are some sleeves. I know that you're new, so you can get them at a discount." And then just like introduce me to like a few of the like younger kids, just so I wouldn't be completely alone. Like, I was playing with one kid who was a couple years younger than me that did like come with me to the event, but it's a very like gracious introduction to competitive Pokemon, and from there until like really 2014, but I stopped playing Pokemon at the end of 2016. Until then, like I was just playing like, all over the UK. I believe the following year, I even just straight up said, "I'm so committed to this, I'm not even going to need my parents to take me anywhere." Like there was one time where like I literally just snuck off. You know, I just bought my train ticket, got on the train from Colchester to, I believe the event was in a place called Ingatestone, which is about like 10 minutes on the tube from Stratford, which is like fairly close to where Colchester is. So Yeah, like when my parents found out about that, they were not happy, but they knew, yeah, there's no restraining this.
Man, your first event was, I mean, honestly, you kind of learned everything. Like, you learned what it takes in order to physically get there, because that's always a lot of people's problem, is literally just getting to an event and paying for it. And then you were able to play for a bit, and then you had that ninth cutoff for the top 8. Like, that has got to be the worst feeling for any first person playing in their tournament. And, like, when I did my first major tournament, like, I ended up missing the top 16 cut by 1 win. And if I would have beaten my my opponent last round, tiebreakers would have been fine since I was slaying that event. That was DreamHack Denver 2017 that I did that. I ended up getting like 24th or something like that out of like 200 people. But but an event very similar to what you were just talking about. I actually went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament when I was a kid. Do you remember the Six Samurai expansion at all?
To a degree, I still kept up with Yu-Gi-Oh! Like somewhat even after I stopped physically playing the game because my local card shop, as I'm sure most local card shops were, was absolutely infested with Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. Like it's
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, and then like maybe like other games on the side. It's just I was fortunately in that transitional phase where like a lot of the people in that card shop in Colchester, like they didn't just play Yu-Gi-Oh, they didn't just play Pokemon, they played a whole bunch of games. Like it's funny, I was actually in a position where I already knew a bunch of people who already did really well. Like there was a card game I doubt you've ever heard of called a Universal Fighter System or UFS.
Yeah, I haven't heard of
That
that.
card, yeah, it's basically a card game about like a fighting tournament, right? Where you're literally playing as fighting characters using attack cards to damage people. It's a very interesting game. But yeah, like I was about to say, like a lot of people in my local area played that game, played it very competitively. Like the nationals event for UFS was even happening in Colchester or Sheffield because the population of UFS players was so high in those two regions.
But
So even back then, I knew like sort of what competition really was like.
yeah, this was like my first like actual experience. Well, yeah, one of my first experiences with a tournament. I went to 2 tournaments before in the Yu-Gi-Oh world. I never really took it that seriously, so like I obviously got stomped and stuff like that before I like got into like Hearthstone. But like the first tournament I went to was a Six Samurai event because it was just when that expansion was released. It was in the convention center in my town, so that's where the tournament was held. But my friends and I went, and the only thing that I really had was just a beat stick deck. So like the whole point of us going there was just to like have fun, and we really didn't do well like in the like open tournaments or the open matches that were available because like there was the actual tournament and then there was like the actual free like play with whoever you meet kind of deal, like the casual area I guess is what I mean. But then when I went to Gen Con, I think this was 2015, yeah, 2015 or 2014 when I went to my very first Gen Con. So there was a tournament that was being held, and there were only 8 signups. So like usually they would have it like separated by age, but since there was only 8 people literally competing, they just had to put everybody together. So there were 6 people that were 15 and younger, something like that. There was me, I think 15, and then there was one 30, 40-year-old who had meta elemental hero decks. And well, guess who got paired against who in the very first round? I got paired against him. I got paired against him immediately. And all I had was like a really stupid beat stick deck. Like all I had was just monsters with 1900 attack, like stuff you could summon out early and just slam your opponent with. And I also had playable versions of the gods. So first game I had, I ended up landing down my Winged Dragon of Ra. Felt like a god, by the way. I've never done that against somebody else that wasn't like in my school or something. And then he was like, okay. He lost the first round. And then the next 2 games, he beat me. Like, I don't even remember how quickly it happened, but the dude beat me so quick, got up, left, and I was like, is this what tournaments are? I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first experience with like an actual like tabletop tournament. And like, I'm not gonna lie, man, like Yu-Gi-Oh is not a game I can get into anymore. I like playing it casually.
Yu-Gi-Oh is ruthless.
It
Like people think Hearthstone is a fast game. Yu-Gi-Oh is terrifying how fast that game can go.
First turn kills are the only thing that matter. And Ridiculous Hat and I were talking about where if Yu-Gi-Oh literally just got rid of their ban list, it would literally just be nothing but an FTK meta. And like you said, with like people like in Hearthstone and whatnot, like people complain about like dying on like turn 5, turn 6 a lot of the time. It's like, bro, play Yu-Gi-Oh for a week, and I promise you, Hearthstone won't make you as angry.
Yeah, and I think like this is part of like why Pokemon was such a easy game for me to learn because back in 2011, like when all of this was happening, the rule is that obviously you know like how like Pokemon battles go, right? You need to KO 6 of your opponent's
I
Pokemon
actually
to
don't.
win.
How long do they usually take? I've never played competitive Pokemon. I've actually never played the Pokemon
I'll get into
card
that. I
game.
was just using that as an example, right? Like when you're in the Elite Four, you're expecting like to KO 6 things, right?
Okay, yeah.
Well, the way Pokemon does it is that at the start of the game, you have to mill the top 6 cards of your deck and put them to the side, which are called prize cards. And whenever you KO an opponent's Pokemon, you take a prize card and add it to your hand. You take 6 of those, you win the game. And of course, back in 2011, like this is before like the game got a lot faster than it is now. Like KOing 6 things usually took about like 20 minutes per game, depending on the deck. Like a lot of Pokemon did attacks that did like 80 odd damage, and the average health was somewhere around like 90 to 110. So usually it would take like more than one attack to kill things.
And it probably needs to be that way in the Pokemon card game because like in video games and stuff like that, obviously you want like to have like your team like one-shot stuff against like computers, but like you're not fighting a computer, you're fighting somebody else, and cards being that broken just aren't going to be that fun.
Well, you say that, but Pokemon, they've done some pretty crazy stuff over the years. Like, after 2011, they released EX Pokemon, which are Pokemon that have
Yes.
like 180 health. And when you kill them, you get 2 prizes. And that obviously changes the dynamic of the game significantly, but I'll get to that later.
Jeez, Pokemon, like, I had Pokemon cards. And the only reason why I had Pokemon cards is just like most people did. Oh, this is my cousin's old collection, and he just gave it to me because they were trying to get rid of it type deal. And, like, everybody that I hung out with, they collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but they never wanted their Pokemon cards. They never wanted it, ever. So, like, I just don't know, like, what exactly was the difference between people. Like, maybe they just saw Pokemon as, like, some, like, for kids and stuff like that, because, like...
I mean, it's a more like complicated game, like to wrap your head around, right? Like,
yeah.
With Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, I like some of my Elemental Hero Neos with 2.5k attack, and I'll beat over your guy with like 2.4k, right? Like that's easy. In Pokemon, that you have to physically run energy cards and attach them in order to get your attacks off. Which, like, when you're a kid, seeing a Charizard that needs like 5 circles to do something, you're like, what's this?
How does this work?
I just want to hit my Charizard, man. I don't want to go for all these extra hoops. And so people, I guess, just didn't see it as appealing as just summoning an Axer and just hitting him in the head.
See, I see Pokemon as like a weird version of Magic the Gathering, because the energy cards are like to an extent like mana, right? Like you need to be able to get the cards in order to actually do the attacks. Where like in Magic, you have lands that, you know, everything costs mana, so you have to be able to get those onto the field. The thing that kind of confuses me about Pokemon is like just battling. Like case in point, like this is a very easy example that I think that you can probably explain for me. But like seeing like psychic cards back in the day, where it's like, okay, it's strong against also the same type. Wait, how does this work out? Like seeing that on a Pokemon card really confused me when I was a kid.
Yeah, like the way they did it in Pokemon was they sort of grouped types together, which has interesting ramifications, right? Like they grouped like fighting, ground, and rock Pokemon to get from just fighting type, or like psychic, poison, and ghost into like psychic type.
Yeah.
And like back then it would be like either plus 30 damage or like times 2 damage, which like sometimes you can have just weird things, right? But like a Terrakion is one-shotting like a Gengar or something, just because like it's a fighting type versus a psychic type. Like you get the idea.
Yeah, I played the games very excessively. I played the first gen. The second gen was actually my very first Pokemon game. I played Pokemon Silver. Then I played Pokemon Red, because my mom had blue for her. Wait, no, she had red for herself, and I had blue, because my mom was also a gamer as well. Fun fact. But then I didn't get to play Gen 3 until my friends were like, I can't beat the game. Can you beat it for me? Because they were just, I mean, they weren't like bad at the game. They just put all of their points into their starter Pokemon, and then they just couldn't get past the challenges kind of deal. So very, very basic issue. And I just taught them how to.
Where exactly? Do you remember?
I don't think they could beat the third or fourth gym, I think. And in Emerald, or like in the third gen specifically, if you don't have good Pokemon and you don't train them well, the Steel Pokemon gym is really hard to beat because the Magnemites are just impossible to kill. I remember that specifically because I actually got soft locked one time going through that game, and I think that's the part where my friend was like, I can't figure this out. And I tried to do it, and I'm like, dude, you just need to redo this game, and we need to train your Pokemon right.
just grab a Mudkip, and then you're off to the races, right? Like, Marstom's OP.
Yeah.
Because, it's like Swampert in general is really good, right? It's water ground, so like Earthquake is just nutty, like etc.
Yeah.
I'd say like the high roll secrets of Pokemon Emerald is you go up to like the Sky Tower early, you just catch Rayquaza for Master Ball, and then you just like beat the Elite Four with just Rayquaza.
Yeah, I always loved to catch all the legendaries and like every single Pokemon I could. And Gen 4 was the last Pokemon game that I played, and probably the one that I had the most fun with. Like, I think Platinum is one of the best Pokemon games ever made. I did play the remake of the Johto region though. I had Soul Silver because I had to relive the nostalgia and I had to see what they did differently. And I was kind of happy with the end of the game, but I'll still boot up the old Silver if I ever want to play that particular region of Pokemon. But love me some Silver.
Yeah, Gen 4 also introduced me to Lucario, who was probably my favorite Pokemon for a while. Unfortunately, he wasn't really that good in the card game, but you can't beat him all, right?
Yeah, so your favorite's Lucario. My favorite is actually Arcanine. I'm very basic with my Pokemon taste.
Arcanine's a good one.
I like dragons
Lucario
a lot
wasn't
too.
my favorite forever, but again, I'll get to that a little bit later. I've got a new favorite now that hasn't changed since Gen 5.
Wait, what's the new favorite?
Where is he? I've put him somewhere. Hold on.
Yeah, because like I stopped playing after Gen 4. I'm kind of familiar with Gen 5, but I did not do my homework.
Someone must have moved it. My favorite Pokemon is Zoroark, a dark fox Pokemon who is well known for illusions and trickery, where it can display like images that can deceive like predators and stuff. It's a very interesting Pokemon, and I actually in 2016, as my swan song for Pokemon, after I got started playing Hearthstone, I came back one last time because the UK Nationals was happening in Liverpool, and I was like, might as well give this a shot. Talked to a friend of mine from the US, I don't remember who specifically, who recommended me the Zoroark deck, and I finished third with it. So
oh, hell yeah.
Zoroark's always got a very special place in my heart as a result.
If only I had something like that with like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, because like I like Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'm very, very basic. I like Blue Eyes and I like Exodia. Like I literally always have these Exodia cards on my desk for good luck, because you never know when you'll need it. But I was a very degenerate card player. Like all I cared about was doing stupid combos, and that's very, very apparent to today, because it's still the only thing that I like to do is uninteractive weird interactions.
And funnily enough, I'm more of a fan of control, like as my general like game plan.
Yeah,
it's something I need to change at some point, but for the time being, it's working. So
I mean, control decks are just interesting. Like you going back and forth and actually thinking about your plays is a lot more cool, or at least in my opinion, it's a lot more interesting to watch than just seeing somebody like, okay, I drew my more aggressive cards, I hit in the face faster, I won, ha ha ha. It's literally the same thing as like playing OTK decks against each other and just seeing who draws faster. I see it the exact same way. And that's why I don't like playing aggro, because when I'm in that kind of situation where it's just aggro versus aggro, is the least fun situation that I can think of in a card game. For me personally, because I like to be able to be rewarded for my actual thought process versus just like, oh yeah, I drew my whatever on turn 3. It's the best card I can play on turn 3. Let's just go with it.
Yeah. I'd say like my like of Control probably stems back to my original time playing Pokemon, because Pokemon, as you're aware, due to the whole energy system, is a game based around long-term planning, right? Like you need to figure out
Yes.
what you're attacking with. You only get one attachment per turn, so like Magic, you only get one land per turn, but energy isn't permanent. If your Pokemon goes down, that energy's gone. You have to like set up something else. And so that sort of inherently taught me the valuables of just like planning for the long term, right? Conserving resources where you don't necessarily have to spend them, that sort of thing. And Control plays very heavily into that mindset.
Yeah, and some people just don't like the drawn-out games, which I could definitely understand, which is why I like mid-range, or at least in Hearthstone particularly. Mid-range decks are something I always want to try and find. Like, first day of the expansion, I was trying, like, this really weird Death Rattle mid-range paladin with, like, eggs and whatnot, and it didn't work. It did not work. Secret Paladin is just infinitely better than any jank mid-range paladin I can come up with.
Yeah, I was about to say, at the time we're recording this, it's only like, what, the third day of the expansion?
Yeah, it's April 1st. April Fools, everybody. Haha. But yeah, it's it's day 3, and so far everyone is playing a bunch of like Spell Mage, Secret Paladin, and Celestial Alignment Druid from what I'm seeing. And then there's Rami, who's playing Hunter. The only person I've seen post a Hunter deck aside from Hockey Boys, who is playing a King Crush OTK deck, which is not going to be meta. I don't think that's going to be meta, at least not right now.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the like larger spreadsheet provided by, of course, Wicked Good, Ridiculous Hat, and Pasca. Thank you guys. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of Hunter on there at the moment, is there? Like it's just like you said, like there was one from Rami, and then we've got like one from Kibler and one from Donkey, and that's basically it compared to like all the Maze decks, all the Paladin decks, and weirdly enough, all the Shaman decks, which I assume are mostly from day one.
What's the deck that Kibler's playing in Hunter? I don't think I've seen that. Because he usually has like a very interesting build. And the last deck that I saw him playing was actually Death Rattle Druid. So definitely no one's playing that.
Looks like it's pretty aggressive in nature. Like it tops out at Trampling Rhino and Kodobane. Just seems to be like an aggressive mid-style build, so nothing too out of the ordinary.
But yeah, the deck that I've been playing the most has just been Spell Mage, just because, oh my god, I knew that Refreshment Water would be broken, and apparently Deck of Lunacy is very, very similar to Kel'Thuzeth in terms of like you just play it on 1, play it on 2, you can almost auto-win games.
It's funny, right? Because the card never saw play like at all for the first 2 expansions it was out, and like only now is it seeing play. Because I'm pretty sure it was released in Scholomance, right? Or was it released in Dark Moon Fair? I genuinely don't remember.
It was Dark Moon Fair. It was Dark Moon Fair because that was also the same expansion where Deck of Chaos was released. And that was definitely Dark Moon Fair.
Okay.
The interesting thing about Deck of Lunacy right now, though, that kind of makes sense in my opinion and why it's so powerful, is that literally the spell pool is the smallest it's ever going to be. So that literally means the card is going to be the most consistent we're ever going to see it. Because as soon as they add more cards, it's going to be a bigger pool. And I believe that there's only one 9-drop spell in the entire game, which is Libram of Hope. So it's like...
Really now?
That's interesting. I could be wrong, so if you want to fact check that, feel free.
Yeah,
but I believe,
I'll do that one sec.
I believe I saw somebody on Twitter being like, the 9-drop pool is so ridiculous that you always get Libram of Hope or something like that. Because like I know Priest doesn't have Plague of Death anymore.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The only 9-mana spell is Libram of Hope.
Yeah, so if you literally play an Invocation, or if you play Enchantress Flow and then play Deck of Lunacy, depending on how many 7-drops you have, you literally have so much healing available to you. So case in point, because we don't have all these other spells to kind of like weaken the pool a little bit, it's really easy for Deck of Lunacy to just like get the same cards every now and again. Like I keep getting oh god, I think I get a lot of 6-drops, I think, because you have a lot of 3-drops in the deck that get upgraded. So
Yeah, like the main
Skull...
6-drop I've seen is the 6-drop priest spell, like deals 4 to a minion. If he kills it, you summon another copy of it. I forget what it's
Initiation,
called,
yeah.
Initiate, yeah.
And like the only other like deck that I've really played aside from that is Alignment Druids, and not necessarily like the most most optimal list. I've been going for the memes, but like that card, I don't know why it's not a legendary card. I feel like having 2 in your deck is... The way that I wanted to explain this card is like the first time you play it, it really, really works. But then the second time you play it, it almost locks out your opponent. Because as a druid, you could do all these ridiculous ramp turns and get all this value. And then suddenly you rip out the second one. If your opponent doesn't have the one card they need, it completely locks you out.
Yeah. It's a very aggressive form of ramp. It reminds me a lot of Astral Communion, if you remember that card.
Yes, it was... It had its drawbacks, but the biggest thing about it was the fact that you had to get it as soon as possible, and the longer you waited, it got worse. This card, you play it whenever, and it's just like you don't have to get rid of your hand. You don't have to get rid of your hand. It's infinitely better in that aspect.
Yep. The only way it's arguably worse is if you're like fairly far behind on board, which for Druid that is an issue, but at the moment the community doesn't seem too worried about like aggro. I mean, it's day 3 of the expansion, so I'm not surprised, but aggro is really not as popular as I thought it would be, to be honest.
I think people are still caught in the moment with the new expansion, trying to see like if these new cards can be played. Everyone's still like, ooh, Seeker Paladin, ooh, Spell Mage. I've only seen one person try Mill Warlock with the new 1-drop, because a lot of people have already said this about like adding like Soul Fragments and playing the 1-drop that burns from both decks. Like that could work very, very well. But then there's the argument where if you don't hit those cards, then suddenly you still aren't really helping yourself out. And we're still just like in a very interesting point in the meta to where people are still testing things that they want to be good, not necessarily what they think is good.
Yeah. Like Warlock at the moment, the lists I'm seeing are like so greedy. It's really quite scary. Like we got Jaraxxus, Tickatus, Yashard, Rustwix. Like there's no way that much greed will ever be like in the like proper final list. But that sort of deck just blows control out of the water. Like you play Priest with Cthulhu, that's fine. Tickatus blows up one piece and you just lose the game instantly. Have fun.
Before this episode, I actually ended up beating a Tickatus Warlock when I was playing Spell Mage, actually, and they burned my Cthulhu piece. It's one of the games I didn't get the Lunacy as soon as possible, but like, I think the Mage deck has so many ways of actually winning outside of just like the Cthulhu pieces versus like a deck like Control Priest. Like Cthulhu's pretty much the only win con you have at the moment, right? Other than that, just like
yeah, like there's no Galakron or anything, and Corrupt Priest apparently isn't good enough, so. It's Cthulhu or Burst, and in a class without card draw, that gives your opponent a lot of time if they're like some kind of control of combo deck, or
I've seen
OTK Demon Hunter, or who knows what else.
I've only seen 3 Priest archetypes: Control Priest, Nazmani Priest, and oh god, the Priest that you just said, the Cthulhu and the Cthulhu Priest.
Mm-hmm.
I think out of all of them, Cthulhu is probably going to be the most consistent. I feel like Nazmani is going to be the most powerful in the right hands. Because I don't know what is going to break Nazmani as of right now. But I believe when we figure this out, the perfect build is going to be something similar to like the rally lists that we saw. Like you just go for like infinite value. However, going for that is kind of harder because the spell pool is limited. So therefore, Sethic doesn't always get you a card you can play on something. So again, I'm not a Priest player, but from what I've seen in the past, the weird Priest archetypes are the ones that work the best.
Yeah. It's funny, like, the deck actually, I think, was probably at its apex back at the end of the last meta when Powered Shield was a card, because I'll tell you what, if you Powered Shield either of the Weavers, it is terrifying. Like, you draw a card, you buff the minion, and you get a free spell that you can use again, and it can roll Powered Shield. Oof. Yeah,
but this new expansion is, like, it's the most interesting I would say the most interesting release, and I'm not necessarily talking about like bugs or anything like that. I'm just talking about the cards themselves. We have like obviously this is a very similar feeling to when I think Descent of Dragons was released. That was at the beginning of the Year of the Dragon, and like everyone was like,
you mean the end, right? It was the last set.
"Oh, my bad, my bad." Well, whatever the first
I think you
expansion
mean
was.
Rise of Shadows, right?
Yes.
And Lackeys were first released.
Yes, that was the first expansion of the Year of the Dragon, and that expansion was, I believe, one of the most fun that I've ever had, just like trying to figure out stuff. And I don't remember what I was playing, but I remember Rafam being like something I would always go to if I ever just needed something funny, because I got him golden, so having an entirely golden deck of legendaries, aesthetically, just that works.
Yeah, it's a shame Rafam never saw play because it's a really powerful effect.
He saw play once. You cannot forget the Viper versus Hunter Ace final championship match. I literally remember where I was during that tournament. I was working at Papa John's, literally, during that tournament. I'm not proud to say that I worked at a Papa John's, but I remember specifically where I was.
You were serving pizza while Hunter Ace was serving Viper's World Championship loss. Got him.
Literally, like, and I just remember just like I luckily we didn't have that busy of a day, so I was just able to chill in the back and not do anything because I was a delivery driver. Like I didn't need to do the store responsibilities unless they were like completely hammered. But I was just literally watching this on my phone. I was freaking out, being like, "What the?" Because like this, like that particular game was probably the most insane Hearthstone game that I've seen on a broadcast before. And you literally saw Hunter Ace mouth "What the fuck" during it. If you look really hard, when I think it was when he played Rafam, I think. But regardless, like I just remember being so vocal during that like my coworkers would like come over to me, be like, "Bro, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, leave me alone. I'm being emotional over here. This game's cool." But my God, dude, Rafam, that was the only time that he saw play. Good game though. He still lost.
Hearthstone always is.
He still lost.
Yeah, sad.
Oh man. So like you were talking about some of your travel stories. So what about?
I was, yeah. So let's get back to that. So where were we? We were March 2011, right? Me just coming back from my first big Pokemon tournament.
After your parents gave you the business.
Oh no, that was later.
That was a different one?
Yeah, that was later. Like after that, of course, was the first UK National Championship because I didn't even know Pokemon. Because here's another thing Pokemon used to do, like before the National Championships were abolished at the end of 2016. What Pokemon did, like for example, Clark, how did you qualify for nationals in the US for Yu-Gi-Oh?
I actually don't know. Actually, I never got that heavily into competitive tournaments until I started playing Hearthstone. Actually,
right. Well, the way I remember it being back then was you had to win a qualifier in order to like show that you were like good enough. That's the way I remember it. But what Pokemon did, which was a pretty good system in my mind, was you needed to acquire these things called play points you automatically get by just attending Pokemon tournaments. So like for nationals, you needed 5 play points, and going to a regional event gave you 3 of those like instantly. So all I need to do is just play like a couple of league tournaments, which it's not really a big deal. Just pop into the card shop a couple of Saturdays, and then boom, I'm playing in the National Championship, driving all the way up to Kettering, a small town in like near Northamptonshire, which is about. I'm just trying to give you a good point of reference here.
Yeah, if you want to, like,
I know
send
you have
me
no
anything,
idea what anything in the UK is.
Yeah, if you want to send me anything, just put it on Discord, and I'll look at it.
Yeah, sure. Give me a sec. I'll just pull it up.
But this is where the tournament was, you said?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, here we are. Perfect. So I'll just grab you a screenshot. Yeah, here we are.
But okay, so like, what happened at this tournament? Like, this is the one that you won, or the one that you got 3rd place in?
No, I'm getting there. Hold on. So it's this place right here. It's probably like the weirdest location for a national championship you'd ever think of in your life, because it was in the middle of an amusement park. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, yeah, Wicksteed Park.
Yeah, like this literally was just right in the middle of an amusement park. Like my folks could hardly believe that. Like they're really holding a tournament here. I was like, I guess, and like they held it in 2012, the following year as well. But yeah, like we just drove up, playing this tournament. I nearly made like top 8 of the nationals as well because again it was seniors. Not that many people turned up. I think like somewhere like 40 odd senior level players turned up, and I think I finished like 11th or 12th, like 4 and 2 again. So after that, I was like, okay, clearly this game is fun. Clearly I'm not terrible at it. Let's keep going. And of course, like after that, because nationals is being held in what's it called? Being held in like June. So like the next like proper season was in September. It's like I start then early September. I come into that brief like story I mentioned to you earlier about me like sneaking off to play an event in London, yada yada yada. So I play a few more events this year, do a bit better, and then London Regionals rolls around again in March, in like over in Leytonstone, and of course, at this point I am 15, so I'm in the Masters division now. I'm like playing with the quote unquote big boys, right? Like the 20 somethings that really know what they're doing, and during like this was during the time when EXs are starting to come in. Now, of course, I'm 15 years old, Clark. I don't have a job. Playing Pokemon takes almost every bit of money out of me to even try to build a half decent deck. And of course, the main EX at this point in time was a card called Mewtwo EX that was in pretty much every single deck in the meta. And getting one Mewtwo EX most likely costs you about £50, give or take. And in order to build like a proper competitive deck, you need at least like 2 or 3 of them. So I was like,
Ooh.
okay, Mewtwo out of the picture, can't play him. What do I do? Well, fortunately for me, there was this other deck called Durant Mill. Durant is a 70 HP metal type Pokemon, which reads for 1 energy, mill the top card of your opponent's deck per Durant you have on the board. And in Pokemon, you can run up to 4 copies of a single card. So, of course, 4 Durants is 4 cards. And in Pokemon, you have a 60 card deck. And if you can't draw at the start of your turn, you lose the game. There's no like fatigue or anything in Pokemon. So
so it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! If you deck out, you deck out. It's just over.
Yeah, but I think in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like the rule is like if you draw a card while your deck is empty, you lose the game.
Okay.
Whereas in Pokemon, it happens at the start of your turn. Sort of like Hearthstone, like taking fatigue, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm rocking up here with this mill deck, which probably wasn't the best choice at the time, but best thing of what I got. And then all of a sudden, like I think there was like 50 odd players in the Masters division at this tournament, like brutal cutthroat tournament. Need to go like 5-1 to make top 8. And then lo and behold, I'm actually in top 8 of this tournament, the first like proper regional event in the big boy Masters division. It's like, are you serious? And then I sit down against my opponent, a guy named Ross, who is a very very colourful character. Sort of like you, actually. He likes to make content a lot for Pokemon. He's branched out a bit recently, but very similar to you, actually. And before our match, he was like, mate, I'm going to destroy you. I was like, sure thing, Ross, sure thing. So I sit down, just 2-0'd him because the thing is, Durant actually is really good against Mewtwo because Mewtwo has an attack, like its main appeal is an attack called X-Ball. What X-Ball does is it's 20 damage per the amount of energy on both sides of the board. And you need at least 2 energy or like a single double colorless energy to use its attack. Now, this attack would normally deal a lot of damage because, of course, in Pokemon, usually you need a lot of energy to attack your guys, right? Well, Durant is a little bit special because metal resists psychic. So right there, that's minus 20 damage per export. So we're down to 40 damage. Then you have a card called Special Metal Energy. And what Special Metal Energy does is that whatever Pokemon takes an attack from an enemy Pokemon takes 10 less damage per special metal attached. So X-Ball's doing 30 damage. And then on top of that, there's a card called Eviolite. And Eviolite is a equipped spell, like tool equipped spell, that says any basic Pokemon equipped with this card takes 20 less damage per enemy attack. And so
your minion's not taking any damage now, is it?
Not from Mewtwo EX, no. And what is the majority of the meta playing? Mewtwo EX. And not only that, Pokemon has some really awkward disruption tools, right? There's a card called Crushing Hammer, which is flip a coin. If the result is heads, discard an energy from any of the opponent's Pokemon on the board. And it's an item, so you can play it anytime you want during your turn. There's a card called Enhanced Hammer, which can freely discard any special energy from the opponent's board. Double colorless energy is special energy. And then there's also another card called Twins, which is while you're behind in prizes, when your opponent's taken more prizes than you, search your deck for any 2 cards, add them to your hand. And you're playing a Durant deck that doesn't take prizes, you will always be behind in prizes. And so with this and all manner of other disruption, it got me to the top 4.
I feel like that kind of deck definitely takes people off guard. And like mill disruption decks like that are always going to be like those decks that take people off guard. Because you get like you essentially get like the surprise element where it's like, wait a minute, this is not something I actually practiced against. How am I supposed to beat this? And if you as a competitive player...
Well, people knew Durant was the thing. It wasn't completely out of left field. It just wasn't popular because Mewtwo's just really, really strong. And it can sometimes beat Durant anyway, just by like running other things along with it. But anyway, I'm sitting here in the top 4 of this regional event. And my opponent is a guy by the name of Sammy Sakum. And Sammy Sakum is a legend in the Pokemon community, not just in the UK, but just in general. This is a person who, for the past 2 World Championships in a row, went 7-0 in Swiss. Dominant performer. Consistently top 4's national championships. His brother won national championships before. His little brother, like top 4 world in juniors before. Monster of a player. And probably one of the nicest people I've ever sat down to play in a card game, genuinely. Like, it's always nice he knew I was nervous. I knew this guy beforehand because he actually visited Colchester once, so I knew him a little bit. And what he did, which was probably the sweetest thing anyone could have done for a 15-year-old kid, was he saw my dad watching off in the side. He said, "You can have your dad over. It's fine." Which, mad respect to that man. Genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. He destroyed me. But he was also playing Durant, funnily enough, because he also realized it was good. And Durant is a very luck-based deck in the mirror match because you can't access your prizes. So if you prize a Durant, or you prize to access your prizes, you're in trouble. And that happened to me twice in a row, and I lost. But still, top 4, held my own against arguably the best player in the game. Pretty good performance, and that's just one more like motivational drive. It's like, okay, I got this result. Let's keep going.
Yeah, it's exactly how it was for me when I got my first decent placement at my major event. Like I was saying earlier, I got 24th, and out of like literally an entire group of people that like, because I wasn't like that well trounced in like Hearthstone content and like the content creators in there. The only people that I really knew, like the first person that I ever talked to actually was just Saiyan. So R.I.P. to Saiyan for retiring from the Hearthstone community. But I literally like was beating myself up, being like, "Oh, go talk to him. Go talk to him. You just ask him a question. That's all you need to do." Because all I wanted to do was just ask him, "Hey, this is my very first tournament. What would you suggest for a newbie?" Because I was just like, I was like fidgeting, being like, these are the decks I'm bringing. I need to know them. Like, oh my god, I'm so out of my element. Because this is before I met anybody in the Hearthstone community. Like, I was a complete random. And I walked up to Saiyan and I just asked him, "Hey, what's some good advice for somebody's very first tournament?" And I will never forget this. It's very, very simple advice. He just took a second, looked out, and then looked at me and finally said, "Take your time. You have 75 seconds. You don't have to rush. Other than that, just really think about why you're making your turns." And like sometimes you ever have somebody say something like so simple to you and you're like, "Wow, why didn't I think of that?" And you're like, "Wow, like this just literally I'm just making it more complicated."
The best advice is the most obvious.
Yes, exactly. So like that entire tournament, I was only looking at like how many options I had and then choosing the best one. And just like, I really do believe that if Saiyan didn't just literally set to slow down in that tournament, I would, because like I'm a fast player. You know me, Paradox. I like APM decks. I like the weird highlight clips. I do the stupid plays that competitive Hearthstone players never have the courage to do, because there's lots of other plays that can be made. So for somebody to literally have to like finally just sit down and just be like, all right, serious time, was a complete, utter ego boost for me to have that good of a performance at my very first Hearthstone event. The sad thing about it, I haven't really been able to replicate that same experience, but like I've gone 6-3 in 2 events, 5-4 in 2 events, and then the last event I went, it was just bad. It was just bad. I'm not gonna talk about it, but it wasn't like an actual tournament. I was kind of goofing around, and it was after a 14-hour car ride to Montreal, and then staying awake for 40 hours total. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that it was fine that I didn't do that well that day.
I mean, those are the best stories, right?
They really are, man. Like, let's see, who else did I meet that tournament? I got a lot of pictures with people. I talked to Lorenda, who was like the only caster I really wanted to talk to at the time. But I also I really just got to talk to everybody who was in that tournament. Nauseous, the Admirable, Cora, Dr. Jinkaninki, and I think and Lorenda. Wait, no, Admirable wasn't there yet. That was just Noxious. Noxious was there before Admirable, because he came the next year. But
I guess my question is like, what was your reaction to seeing Noxious as an absolute midget?
I really didn't really know him that well, to be honest. So like a lot of people were caught off guard by that fact, but since I wasn't really, I knew him from like his trolled in highlights and stuff like that, which is why I knew who he was, but it didn't really stand out to something like that. That didn't stand out to me, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, you know, like I had a similar kind of thing to Falcone, like Daniel Falcone, the old Hearthstone caster, now among us streamer extraordinaire. Like, he also looks very tall, like when you see him on his stream, but he is also much shorter than you think he is.
I was kind of surprised by how tall Firebat was, because I've met him in person, and he just seemed like a normal, like, short guy, but then he's just like actually pretty. He's taller than me. Like, I'm actually not even 6 foot. Fun fact. Like,
I believe I'm either 5'11" or 6, so like give or take. So
drat.
Apparently I'm taller than you as well. Unlucky.
Never lucky in that department. But yeah, dude, like, all it takes is one pro player. It just takes one pro player to tell you something that you've already heard, or something that you just need like a little reminder of, or literally in your circumstance, having somebody be like, okay, this is just another person, another player. Because like there are some other times where like people in the higher ranks, if there was a situation where like there's a literal child in front of them, they might literally try to take advantage of that of the child's knowledge of what's going on. Like, oh, you don't know this is a rule? This is actually how the rule is. Don't call that admin. I'm your friend. Like, that happens all the time in card games, to where like if you
it does, yes, it like does. It's why like eventually I'll get into it. Like the whole transition to Hearthstone was something that it's sort of like a watershed moment, just seeing like how many things you just immediately think is like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore? Wow.
I know.
Okay.
That's one thing I love about Hearthstone, something that doesn't get talked about enough. You literally cannot cheat in this game. You can't. I mean, you can quote unquote cheat with the mechanics.
You can't cheat during the game.
Yes. Like, you can't stack your deck. You can't be like, oh, I play this card. And wait, can you actually do that? Yeah, I could do that. Don't call the admin over here. I'm your friend. Like, you can't do that in Hearthstone. And that's actually something that iDubbbz talked about in one of his, the only video that he's done about Hearthstone was him just talking about just, like, games in general, where, like, you have the Timothy, the Tomothy, and the Spike, I think, or I forget what the video or what the names are.
I know it's Timmy and Spike. I forget the third person, but I know you're in the right direction.
Yeah, Timmy, Spike, and something else. But like, that's just the cool thing about electronic card games in general, and I feel like Hearthstone was the first game to really perfect that. And now you have all these other games that, like, I'm just gonna say one right off the top of my head that's literally a carbon copy of Hearthstone. Have you ever heard of Gods Unchained?
I have not, no.
Okay. I want you just to look at a picture of Gods Unchained and try to tell me something that is not like Hearthstone. Because, like, literally, this game is a carbon copy. Hey, don't... it was like a... Like, they took Hearthstone's homework and then didn't give them credit. It literally looks like the same thing. They have hero powers. They have the same portraits. The board looks the same. The mechanics are the same. So, like, Battle Cry is Roar in that game. Oh god, I think Provoke is Taunt. So, like, literally it's the same mechanics, it's the same game, just different cards. But, like, kind of like what I'm saying is that, like, Hearthstone was the first game to perfect this, and you are literally seeing other games trying their hardest to mimic this success.
Mm-hmm. And there are other things along with that too, not just in the digital sphere, but I keep saying this, it's just like something I'll get into later on, so I guess I might as well continue where I left off, right?
Yeah. And I'll send you this this board so I can kind of tell you, so I can kind of show you what exactly it's like, because this game looks, it looks exactly like freaking Hearthstone. Like, it's not even funny. Like, there you go, just sent it to you. But, like, the minion stats are the same.
That does similar, doesn't it? Yeah.
The only thing that's different is that the decks are on the other side.
And the board looks smaller, but
yeah, a little bit more condensed. But it's 6 minions instead of 7. It's 6 minions instead of 7, and that's, like, the only other difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the mana system is slightly different. The mana system is slightly different. I don't remember it. I've literally played 2 games of this, and that's because my friend is trying to...
But the point is, it looks remarkably similar, yeah.
Yeah, it's... And, like, you look at a game like Artifact, at least you could tell Artifact was, like, a different game. But at the same time, that just... Artifact shot themselves in the foot on release, and then expected to walk. And it didn't go well.
Yeah. Anyway, so where I left off, it was right after the regional. I was like, okay, well, I'm qualified for nationals again. Let's see how well I can do. Like, obviously, this is in the Masters big boy division this year. No, like, no, like, cheating, right? Like, being in seniors, where it's an easier field now. So the way nationals worked back in the day is that, like, there was a point system in place, sort of similar to, like, how GM works to a degree, right? Where if you get enough points from, like, doing well in events during the year, you qualify to the World Championship.
Yeah, you had
I had nowhere near enough points to qualify before nationals. The only way I was getting there was by top 4ing nationals. And if you top 4'd nationals back before 2014, that's a paid trip to the World Championship, right? Like, fully paid, like, flight, hotel, everything. So at this point, it was one set later, there was a new EX Pokemon on the block called Darkrai EX, which was arguably even stronger than Mewtwo. Actually deleted Durant from the game because it pretty much eliminated everything Durant going for it. Like, there was a new card called Dark Patch, which recovered dark energy from the discard. Like, Darkrai had an ability to where, like, any, like, minion with dark energy attacks to 0 retreat, so you can't just, like, put a bad Pokemon active. It does 90 damage and 30 to a benched Pokemon. So it even hits, like, multiple Durants. Like, Durant, out of the question. Now, fortunately for me, at this point, I have a few friends in the local card shop who like fortunately have some Darkrais they can lend to me for the tournament. And I had a little bit more money at this point, so I was able to scrounge up 3 Darkrais for my Nationals deck. Of course, I still didn't have access to Mewtwo, so that was another question. So instead, I was playing a Darkrai Hammer deck, which basically operates on a similar system to Durant, where it's like it's an energy disruption style deck that just goes in with Darkrai and just tries to like get easy snipes. So I play the event. I go 5-2 in Swiss, and actually make it into the top 16. My first national championship, top 16, and I immediately lose. I lost to the winner, but top
well,
16.
at least you have that. At least you have that.
Yeah, at least I had that. So I was like, okay, still doing well. Clearly, I'm holding my own in the Masters division, no problem. Let's keep going. So I come back next year. At this point, I am approaching 16, 17 years old. I'm starting to like get like proper money now. I can actually travel to events and build like semi-decent decks on my own. Stuff happens. I do like average well for the year. Nationals rolls around. I'm back in top 16 again in 2013. This was being held at the National Exhibition Center. And this actually was where I met Green Sheep for the first time. Because Green Sheep, he wasn't a Hearthstone player at first. He was like me. He started out in Pokemon in the seniors division.
And I think he's going back to Pokemon now because he's not playing Hearthstone anymore. I remember specifically he retired.
Yeah, well, he's not playing Pokemon as far as I'm aware. But yeah, like this is the first time I met Green Sheep, and he was in the seniors division, and he actually finished second place in the Nationals event, and he lost to a friend of mine in seniors that I knew from an online Pokemon forum. And I actually like fully like built his deck for him. And he managed to win like over Green Sheep, which that's a nice pat on the back for me. But anyway, so I'm back in top 16 again, and funnily enough, my opponent in top 16 wasn't able to play because he had to go to a friend's wedding. He had to leave. Like he wasn't even expecting to get that far, but he had to leave.
I would not leave. I would stay. I would have been like, bro, I know you're getting married, but
yeah. But anyway, he left, and now I'm in my hotel on the night before in top 8 of the UK National Championship. Even better than last year. I am now 1 series away from a fully paid trip, flight, everything to Vancouver. Like, Vancouver's a pretty good deal. So I sit down on the morrow, play against my opponent, and I lose.
Seems about right. Have I ever told you about the one time I almost got a free trip to Germany through Hearthstone?
Go on.
So it was the Shutterwalk meta, I believe. It was the very first meta that Shutterwalk was a thing, and it was oh god, what tournament was it? I think it was oh god, it was Copa. It was Copa Cups. I think it was Copa Cups or like so like essentially what was going on is that if you were to win this tournament, I think it was HTC Copa Germany or something like that, and you can if you were to win that game. If you were to top placement in that tournament, you were able to win a trip to Germany in order to play in the top top qualification for that tournament. And I remember specifically that I made it to day 2. I made it to day 2 in that tournament, and it literally came down to I needed to win 2 games, 2 sets in order to make it to the tournament. And oh wait, hold on. I'm confusing some details. It's been a minute since this tournament. It was like 2018 when this happened. So I made the top 16 cut. Top 4 were going to get the trip to Germany, and the very first round I went up against it was a deciding game versus Control Warrior when I'm on Shutterwalk Shaman. And if you know that matchup, it was almost impossible for Shutterwalk Shaman to lose that game. The only thing that could go wrong in that match is if your Grumble...
Is the combo messing up.
Yep, is the Grumble and the Zola not triggering in the right order. I remember specifically I had bounced 4... I had played 4 total doppelgangsters or chain gangs or whatever was used in that meta to copy the Shutterwalk.
Like chain gang, yeah.
I had played 4 copies of them. Grumble, Zola, very first cards to trigger off in the entire Shutterwalk combo. And I ended up losing that game, which lost me the series. And I did the math. It was a 3% chance for the Shutterwalk to pop off like that. I literally lost out a chance of being flown out to Germany and maybe even starting my competitive Hearthstone career because of a 3% chance. And I was so goddamn frustrated.
And so was I back in 2013. So you know what I did back in 2013? Me, a 16-year-old kid who really should have known better. You know what I did?
Did you do it again? What?
No. So what I did was I got a little bit sneaky. I asked a friend of mine from the seniors division who qualified. I was like, "Hey, can I join you on your trip to Vancouver if I join your dad and such, and I pay my way over?" And then I told my parents, I was like, "Hey, can I go?" And they were like, "Sure." But are you going with a guardian? It's like, yes, of course I am. But the kicker was I wasn't actually going to be staying with those people directly. I was going to be in my own hotel in Vancouver. Yeah. That was part of the agreement. So my parents unintentionally let me go to Vancouver alone as a 16-year-old kid. This is me flying from the UK to the edge of Canada alone at 16 years old. And in a shift from many other horror stories, everything went off without a hitch. Well, I got to Vancouver, everything went fine. Canada is a beautiful place. Everyone speaks English, so there was no problem with me getting lost.
Well, in that part of Canada, everyone speaks English.
Yeah, exactly. So everything went fine. I went off to the World Championship because there was a last chance qualifier event, which basically is an open cup. It's best of 3 single elimination.
Oh god.
Play until you get to the last day. If you get there, you're in Worlds. I didn't get there, of course, but I wasn't expecting to. I was there for the experience because I felt robbed.
Yeah. Speaking of open cups and not making it, how does it feel to be an open cup grinder? Because this is something that I have tried to do several times. I've quit several times, and even to this day, even right now, with these tournaments coming up in the next literally tomorrow, I still want to do them. But I know they're not worth it unless I really put in the time to know what's worth bringing in order to know how to play these decks. Because I'm not the best Hearthstone player. I can't look at a deck and pilot it to its absolute best ability. Some of these other people can do, and it's how do you get on top of your own motivation whenever you lose first round or whenever something happens that just normal people would quit? How do you keep on it?
I mean, I just try to forget, right? My position when playing Hearthstone is a bit different in that I don't really play ladder very much. The UK scene, funnily enough, is chock full of grinders. Meaty, Pocket Train, Dead Draw, Jamboree, all of them finished in High Legend last month, and ironically, all of them are in my practice group. I'm not like them. I can't stand playing 7-8 hours a day or however long it is to play ladder, but I'll gladly commit that much time to open cups because I find tournament matches more interesting in the whole aspect of building 3 different decks, figuring out what the ban strategy is, so on and so forth. But as far as my motivation for playing these tournaments, it's more of just this is my preferred method, so I'm just going to go about it. And it's all like running the lottery, right? One time you get lucky, and if you get lucky early, then good job. Otherwise, you're like me, and you're hoping that one of these times in the next couple of weeks you get there.
Yeah, because you're always getting 6 threes at Masters Tours. I don't think I've seen you at 7-2, and it's just oh my god, come on, one of these days.
I've 7-2. I've 7-2 before.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was actually 7-1 in Masters Tour Los Angeles, and my final round opponent was actually Tice. And I lost to Tice, and That put me out of top 8.
What meta was that? What did he beat you with?
What meta was that? That would have been March 2020. So right before rotation last year. So
Oh god, so that was like Highlander decks, right? Like Highlander
I
Hunter?
think
I actually can't remember what we were playing before Descent of Dragons and stuff like that.
no, this was like post Galakrond's Awakening.
Oh, okay, so like Galakron Shaman, that was right after that was
Well,
nerfed.
Gala Shaman would have been nerfed by then, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, oh god, I can't remember that fucking meta. It's been so long. Oh my god, man. I remember the Kobold's Catacomb, the Kobolds of Catacombs meta very well. I remember the Knights of Frozen Throne meta very well. And then everything afterwards, I started getting a little bit blurry on. And that's only because, like, I used to be able to say all the Hearthstone expansions, like, in order. And I would, like, test myself all the time whenever the new one came out. But now, since my attention is just, like, all over, it's impossible for me to like to list everything off because I keep wanting to say that Descent of Dragons was the first part of that year, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was Rise of Shadows. See, it's funny. I'll tell you why I remember that Descent of Dragons is the last one so well. It's because I have the Saviors of Uldum intro trailer just memorized because that trailer is way too good.
It literally is a parody of I Need a Hero, so...
it is the best trailer that they've ever released for an expansion in this game.
The theme is just too good. I was trying to think of like a way to debate you on that, but it's the truth. It really is the truth. I will say that like I got a ton of chills. Like, oh my god, yes, I can't wait for this expansion when Dark Moon Fair was announced. That trailer got me so fucking hyped the first time I watched it. I'm like, oh my god, the old gods are back. This was like the Whispers of Old Gods meta was literally the meta that got me into competitive Hearthstone. Like that was the first one that I like really tried to qualify for it. So I have a lot of positive memories with that. Well, positive and negative memories with that expansion. So seeing that and reliving like those same like chills and stuff like that, like had a lot of good feelings for that trailer. But at the same time, that theme cannot be beat. Who wrote that? I need to know.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
Because it's literally...
It's funny, they actually have the lyrics on the trailer video. That is amazing.
It's literally a parody of I Need a Hero. It's like slightly different. Like it's okay. It's like a little bit more of like an arrangement, but there is a lot of elements of that song in the trailer video. And it makes sense because Reno is like I need a hero. No, you need a Reno. That's what you need.
Yeah, or in the least Finley or Bran.
Finley never saw play.
The unfortunate thing
is
that the intro to that meta was very, very bad. Because intro to Saviors of Uldum was right around the time they unnerved
Doom of the Tomb.
Or they buffed Luna's Pocket Galaxy and broke the game.
Doom of the Tomb. I remember that being literally the worst meta I've ever played in, but it's the best results that I had in Open Cups. I've not been able to get a second place since that Arlington qualifiers run. And it was the last tournament. It was it was the second to last tournament. It was the second to last tournament because I think it was like the 2 o'clock cup or whatever. I made it all the way to the final round. I needed to dodge one lineup, and I actually went up against the lineup I needed to dodge one other time, and I ended up somehow beating it. But in the final round, it was like Combo Priest, Edwin Rogue, and Evolve Shaman, and my opponent just literally had everything and dunked on me. Feels bad.
Yeah.
There needs to be something for second place. I don't know, man. I don't even know what the hell they can give them.
I agree. Like, I've written about this before, but I would be totally cool if they just like reduce the amount of qualifiers. If they just like give like a more like even stand second, that'd be great.
Yeah, like it's like there's nothing worse than being one step away and literally finishing the exact same as somebody who died on the first round. Like. When you put it in that,
you get 10 packs. Got him.
The packs don't matter the packs matter if you're on like other accounts and stuff like that or other like,
the packs don't really matter though. It's just
to most people they don't matter.
Constellation prize, you know.
It's like the okay, so There's one other tournament story that I have. This was the very first Hearthstone tournament I had ever done. It was a local tournament. It was Tavern Heroes, actually. Did the UK ever have Tavern Heroes?
They did, yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar.
Down in London, they did.
Do you remember the qualification process for that event?
As far as I'm aware, it's like qualify, like win a qualifier, and then after that, you have to like win another like best of three style event, I believe. I don't quite remember.
So the way that it worked is that you had to go to an actual, like you had to go to some kind of like LAN event to where you play with the people at the event, and the winner of that Tavern Hero in every single location, like you essentially had to contact Blizzard, say, hey, can we run this, and then they would give you the approval for it, and that's how they were able to set up these brackets, because it was like a whole like 2 month long like process. But in Indianapolis, I went to this place called eBash, which unfortunately isn't around anymore because nobody wants to go out and use other people's consoles and pay for it. But I went there, and unfortunately, they were like, we may not have enough people to do this because we need a certain amount of people. Otherwise, Blizzard won't officially sanction this event and won't count it. So I was like, okay, I have 2 friends that came with me. I can just ask if they would like to play for fun. And they were good at the game. It wasn't like I was just like filling up the bracket with people, bad players or anything like that. Like they had good decks. They played Zoo competently. But regardless, we started this tournament. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. So we started this tournament, and we were one person away from starting it. We were literally one person away from reaching that capacity. So literally what happened was one of the admins contacted one of his friends, and that guy was able to play at home. And, well, I don't know if he was like using a deck tracker, using all that other stuff, but I only had what was in front of me. So the tournament goes on. I end up going up against the guy who's not there at the event. I think like the second or like third round, and he ends up beating me. I got pissed off because I'm like, what the hell? This guy's like not even here. Like this isn't fair. All of us had to arrive in order to actually be a part of this. So then I was like, all right, screw it. I'll just win everything else, and I'll just do everything I can. I literally trash the losers bracket and make it to the final round. And guess who was sitting there waiting at the final round?
Well, I know he was actually sitting there, but yeah.
Yeah, the guy who's not there. Yeah, the guy who was not there. I play him again. I lost again. I lost to the same person twice. And if I would have been able to win that tournament, I would have been able to qualify to the next step in the Tavern Heroes. And I don't 100% know how exactly those tournaments ended. But like, who knows what could have like happened? Maybe I could have done like more tournaments. I could have been invited to a lot more stuff. And I specifically remember this like years by, because I'm sorry, I remember this years later where I was thinking, why didn't I just say disqualify him? He's not part of it. Like I'm gonna go ahead and just take the free win, because I think I could have gotten away with that. But the biggest thing on why I'm telling you this story is because what you were just talking about with like second place and stuff like that. Guess what my prize was? It was a $15 entry fee. So I got my $15 back. I got $1 additional, and I got a Hearthstone swag thing. Like this is actually what I got. I have it hanging up right over here. But I got this thing.
Oh man, custom card.
It's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, but was it worth literally getting $1 for second place and this? Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know what happened to that guy. I don't remember his name or anything like that. But like it was really frustrating for that to happen. Because then I was like, well, what the hell, man? What am I supposed to do now? I spent all this time. I did the most work out of anybody. Probably had, like, not the best win, right? Because I don't think I played more games than him in order to get a better win percentage. But, like, regardless, I worked the hardest. And I felt like I got, like, insulted with with my prizes. But, like, at the same time, I got something other people didn't. But still, dude, second place is, like, it is so true how you're literally just first place loser.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute truth.
Just don't tell that to a Reliquary, a good old friend from Portugal.
Wait, why is that?
Look at his Twitter feed, and you'll find out pretty quickly why.
Oh no. Something open cups.
something most second places.
Oh no, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, he's qualified for the most recent Masters Tour though.
Yeah, but he has gotten a lot of second places.
Yeah, yeah. He
Like I even beat him in the finals once, and I scammed him too. Like I got like Malagos from Dragon Lackey and Sinister Strike from Spell Lackey, and I killed him with Malagos, Sinister Strike, Prep Eviscerate.
it's just rogue things. You know, Malagos may be out of the meta, but okay. So like you were talking about Shaman earlier. There's actually a really interesting Shaman deck that I want to play, where it uses I think it's Brakan or something like that. The new Shaman
The
Legendary.
5/4 legendary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
+3 spell damage to your nature spells. I literally on the other day on stream, I went up against somebody that played that after their imprisoned Phoenix had awakened, and I was like, wait a minute, dude, this is just literally Mali split up into 2 cards. Because you have that awakens, you play that card immediately after, then you spam spells. And I actually ended up losing that game. And I looked at the deck list, and there's no card lower than there's no card higher than 5 mana. So like, I think that Shaman deck could be pretty interesting to say the least.
I'd have to test it before I can judge properly.
Yeah, it was only one game that I went up against it, but like it pretty much was like the coolest thing I think it could do against me was like that Mali assemble combo or whatever. But like it also ran like a Nara Storm Crash, and it just had a bunch of tempo in the deck. Like it almost felt like a face deck.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I can't really judge until like I see the deck. Like we said, it's like early days, right? Like everyone's still playing Spell Mage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be surprised if you see like in a week just like a whole bunch of aggro decks popping up because the Spell Mage deck doesn't really run many board clears, right? It only has a Deck of Lunacy to find some. Aside from that, not really a whole lot of AoEs.
The only other AoE that I can get is because it does run Wildfire, so if you hit Reckless Apprentice,
Well, not all this run Wildfire.
oh, not all of them do. All the ones that I've seen run them. Might not be the most optimal card to
I
run,
mean, the
though.
European list I've seen don't run it, so
Okay, well, I was about to say, like, if you get, like, it's very, very specific, but, like, if you get Reckless Experimenter out of Font of Power, then you have AoE, but it's still not the greatest option, to be honest. Like, because you are right, that deck doesn't have a lot of, like, interactivity until suddenly Deck of Lunacy comes by and you get literally fill in the blank.
well, ideally fill in the blank board clear, which isn't guaranteed. Like obviously you said earlier, there's cards like Library of Hope, right? Like cards that you're guaranteed to get on 9 mana, but
Yeah.
aside from that, it's not always guaranteed. Like 8 mana spells suck. 7 mana spells are mostly Flamestrike and Sprint at the moment, I believe.
And Mask of Cthulhu.
Oh, and the Cycle of Hatred, because I remember seeing that one earlier.
Cycle of Hatred's actually been pretty useful for me. That was the card that I meant to say. Yeah, that's the card that I get almost every single time is Cycle of Hatred for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's not the greatest, but every now and again it can be useful.
I mean, a 4 mana Cycle of Hatred is insane against aggro.
Yeah, like, do you think there's gonna be any nerfs coming after this this set? Like, obviously people are gunning for Pinflinger.
Yeah, Penflinger is one of those cards that I'm sort of like, there are games where it's like, oh man, this is so busted. And there's other games that's like, it's alright.
And like that's part of the reason why, like, if you were to nerf it to the point where it can only hit minions, I think it's just gonna kill the card. Like, it's good removal still for like Libram Paladin, but like you need damage.
Yeah. I don't know, I can't really like give my I can't really give like a proper like nerf assessment on the card because I don't know like how impressive it is, right? Like how many decks run it at the moment? It's Libram Paladin, what else? Like some rogue builds.
I think those are the only classes that are really utilizing it. And like, I mean, to be honest, I would say that the issue with Pinflinger, or at least in Paladin, is not Pinflinger himself, it's the Libram cards. Like the Libram cards being 0 mana is really what milks Pinflinger.
Mm-hmm.
And like the only other deck that we've seen it is Rogue. And Rogue just needs like that little bit of chip damage every now and again, which is fine that they have that. But then like suddenly when you have like this gigantic weapon hitting you in the face, I don't know, man. I still don't like the weapon. I'm fine with Pinflinger as a card.
Well, clearly they want the weapons to be good in Rogue, right? They printed another one that's sort of similar to the sword to a degree. The new 2/2 weapon for free.
And
I forget what it's called.
and now people like, okay, so I haven't seen many aggro decks, but I did see a weapon rogue list that literally just looks exactly like what we saw last expansion, except it has both weapons in, and like whatever cards left are obviously replaced, but it almost looks like the exact same deck.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, I really hope that that deck isn't as powerful. I don't care if it's in the meta. I just don't want it to be tier 1. Or I don't want it to be the most I don't want it to be the most popular deck.
Every game.
Like, I'm fine with going up against it every now and again. Like, I just don't like it when I play like a meme or something like that, and all I'm hoping for is to not go up against like Rogue or not to go up against like Secret Mage. Like, those are like the biggest things that I had to worry about last expansion. And like literally half of my games would be against Rogue or be against Secret Mage whenever I was trying to go up against this, and it's just like, all I want is to not go up against this class. I don't care about losing. I just don't want to. I don't like the idea of knowing that I'm gonna lose on turn 1. And even though I am playing like a gimmicky deck and stuff like that, it just doesn't make for a good streaming. It just doesn't make for a good stream, and that's why like those kind of decks just bother me.
I feel the same way, but for specifically OTKDH at the moment, I think that deck is oppressive.
Wait, right now?
And I would be.
Right now after the rotation?
I mean, I think it's been oppressive the entire time it's existed, to be honest.
I mean, I would agree with like the previous expansion, but like, why after rotation? Like, the deck is still
because
there.
it lost none of its cards, mate.
It
lost
still,
none of its cards.
It's still good, but it's like, it's not. I haven't even seen it at all. I haven't seen nobody.
All right. Like my first like 3 games from this expansion, right? Were OTKDH, Control Lock. It's like me, the control lover, cries inside whenever that's his first 3 games, you know?
Yeah.
But what I would love is for them to just nerf Moog Artificer to the text of the first spell you play, the first spell either player plays each turn is doubled. Only the first one.
That would actually make the card pretty fair, to be honest. Because then if you do like the combo that deals 24, finding the extra 6 really isn't that difficult. But then like suddenly you don't have like if you're gonna go for like these massive turns, you need to do it with one gigantic spell or one gigantic spell damage minion, so that way you get as much damage as you physically can. Because I think that's actually like a good way of going about the nerf, because most people are just like, oh, just get rid of Skull, or like, I mean, obviously Skull it can be a problem card, and I think it may need to be addressed in the future if Demon Hunter is still able to abuse it.
I mean, Skull's gone in a year, right? Like,
there's also that, yeah.
Yeah, like I want to keep like Moog to be playable. Like, if you want to run it in Priest or Warlock, I don't want to be like, oh, I can't run this card anymore because another deck makes it unplayable. You know, that's just not fun.
Yeah, like Moarg, the best meta that it was in was Quest Warlock. Quest Warlock was probably my favorite deck out of last year's expansions. The most interesting deck. He had a lot of different ways of being able to build it, and when it was meta, it was not an easy deck to pilot. You had to take a lot of risks sometimes, and like, you also need to be good at like reading your opponent's hand, because you couldn't like tap if you had like a suspicion that your opponent had like a bunch of damage and stuff like that. So like, I would love to see more decks like Quest Warlock, to where it has lots of different ways of being played, lots of different ways of being built, and then even when you finally figure out what the quote-unquote optimal build is, there's lots of different ways to play the deck.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't know if we really had a deck similar to Quest Warlock, like, after it stopped being viable.
No, I was about to say
like, obviously there was the build with like Rustwicks and stuff, but that's not really the same thing.
Yeah, it's more like a value deck, more so like actually trying to kill your opponent. I would say that like OTK Demon Hunter is probably like the closest that we've had to that, but it's just way more extreme version of that, to where you only go for the combo. Because like, one thing I liked about OTK Demon Hunter at first was that I would actually have games that I would outvalue my opponent with HP. Like against Rogue and stuff like that. Like, I loved that matchup where I could just like out-heal my aggro opponent, and then suddenly they just have to concede because they don't have the resources. But then suddenly the deck just became, oh my god, we can consistently kill people on turn 6.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Like, that's, I as a combo player, like, okay, I use this example all the time. A combo I'm okay with, OTK Demon Hunter. Combo I'm not okay with, Mozaki. I'm not okay with Mozaki because Mozaki has one direction and one direction only. play a bunch of cards, kill your opponent's face. At least OTK Demon Hunter, you had other directions that it could go, but I do understand people's frustrations with both of them. But that's kind of like how I like to explain like the duality of combo decks, is that if it's a deck that's not just if it's not just doing one thing and winning very consistently doing that one thing, I don't like that combo deck. But if it's a combo deck like Shudderwalk, for example, that wasn't always just winning with the combo, I love those kind of decks. I love versatility.
Mm-hmm. I mean, from my perspective, Mozaki and OTKDH are basically the same thing, but we're entitled to disagree here.
Exactly. I mean, that's just like there was a segment that I had with Zeddy where I was talking about my opinions on combos, and that was something that came up, was like the differences between like combo decks. So like OTK Demon Hunter or Mozaki, fundamentally as a combo deck, they do play the same, but in every other situation to where they're not going for combo, the decks are completely different. You can play defensively as an OTK Demon Hunter and win in other ways that aren't just comboing your opponent. If you're playing Mozaki Mage and you fuck up the combo, you're dead. You're just straight up dead. And that's like kind of like how I see that. Like obviously like Shudderwalk Shaman would be like the other good combo example, but it's a lot more focused on other aspects of the game, unlike OTK Demon Hunter. But just like the thing I like about combo decks the most is the puzzle that comes with them. Can I win this game with my combo? And if I can't, how on earth do I use these really weird cards that don't synergize with each other to win the game? And that's why I enjoy combo decks.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just, as a control player, just don't like the feeling of helplessness, knowing there's not as much I can do against it, but that's a me thing. It's not like unhealthy for the game for interactions like that to exist.
Yeah, the only unhealthy interaction I would say is I'm kind of getting I'm kind of getting annoyed of Tickatus. Like at first I thought I could defend the card.
You're getting ticked off of Tickatus.
Yeah, I almost said that. But yeah, like Tickatus is a card that started to test my patience. It's too easy. It's too easy to do it for such a really good payout. Like, and then Yashiraj just gives you another one for 0 mana. Like, oh my god.
I mean, the problem with Tickatus, right, is like actually finding Tickatus, finding the 7-drop that's good, and then playing them all like without dying. It's all like the combo thing again, right? Where it's like you have all these things. It's just how do you not die in the meantime?
Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. Like every single time I look at Tickatus, it's like I don't even enjoy playing it anymore. Like it's just one of those cards where it's like, well, I guess I have to play Tickatus in order to win the game. Where it's not like, ooh, Mally combo. I want to play this Mally combo kind of thing. Where it's like, you literally just throw Tickatus in any Warlock deck that has expensive cards. Like, that's literally how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want more interactive cards like Dirty Rat. I want Dirty Rat back.
Dirty Rat was a good card. I agree with
card.
That.
Perfect design disruption card in Hearthstone. It doesn't always get you a minion from your opponent's hand because not every single deck plays minions. And when it did work, it gave control players like you a tool to interact with combo. And you need a way to interact with combo in order to have like a chance. That's why Mind Render exists. But that's a whole nother can of worms. And
everyone hates Mind Render but loves Dirty Rat.
Okay. You can't put them on the same boat, though.
Of course I can.
No, you can't. Dirty Rat gets rid of one card. Mind Render gets rid of your entire deck sometimes.
Mind Render's legendary that costs more mana.
Okay. I guess we'll agree to disagree on this one. Like, what are some other disruption cards that we could see in Hearthstone? Like, because we've seen Unseen Saboteur.
Watch Posts, Kappa.
Watch Posts, yes. Ogremancer, and like cards like Glide. Glide, not really that good unless you're playing Spell Mage, to be honest. I actually have played Glide a few times in that matchup. It's pretty freaking nice.
I mean, it's funny. Like, Glide actually was a card. It was originally a Pokemon. It's a card called Judge, which was a card that shuffled both players' hands into their decks, and then they each drew 4 cards.
Oh, so it is
was
literally
used
Glide.
In that game pretty much exclusively as a disruption tool. And Hearthstone and Pokemon are very different games. There's a lot of card draw, right? There's a lot of ways of getting out of Judge. So pretty much was only used as like one of those like last resort type things. Just like, yeah, I'll just disrupt your hand, disrupt your board, and then just try to take control from there. In Hearthstone, starting the turn with 5 cards is actually pretty good, all things considered, right? Like, you can do a lot of 5 cards in this game. In Pokemon, like 5 cards can sometimes just be a dead like couple of turns if you draw poorly.
Well, in Pokemon, you have literally twice the deck size as Hearthstone.
Exactly. Yeah, so you have even more opportunities to draw dead. And even then, Judge was only played in disruption decks. It never was meant to be a tempo card.
Yeah, there's no way that
And
Glide.
DX just isn't disruption, it's aggro.
Yeah, because the only other disruption card they have is Stelina, which is another card that I've actually played a decent amount so far, just because Eldari Studies hitting it randomly has actually been pretty consistent. Like, again, like all the Discover cards and all the things that have random pools, like this is the smallest pool we're ever going to have with these cards, so they're going to be the most consistent they've ever been. But speaking of other games, actually, you're a massive board game fanatic. And the reason why I know this is because you try all the time in order to gather all the House Rivalry personalities in order to play board game night, which actually has happened a few times. So where did the love of board games come from?
So the love of board games, I'd say, started back in secondary school, where a science teacher like used to host a games club and had just a whole bunch of board games to play, like Warhammer 40k, Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, etc. I'd say that's probably where it started, and then it's just obviously players in the card game shop that I used to go and also like board games. So it's just opportunity came by. I like the strategy involved, and yeah, pretty much that's how it went for me. Like my love of board games is my love of strategy.
Yeah, what would you say is your favorite board game? Because I mean, the only one that I've really played a whole lot was probably Settlers of Catan, outside of like Monopoly and stuff like that. But I'm not going to consider Monopoly.
Classics,
yeah.
I'd say probably my favorite is Ticket to Ride. That's probably like the favorite for me.
You said Ticket to Ride, like riding a ride.
Yeah, it's in Ticket to Ride. It's in have you heard of it?
I'm looking it up right now. It's a railroad themed game, German style, board designed by Alan R. Moon. It was illustrated by blah, 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 blah. The game is also known as Zig Zug. Okay, hold on. This is supposed to tell me what it like actually plays like, not the...
What it is it's basically a railroad tycoon style game where you're like building train lines across the North American continent in order to get like specific bonuses at the end of the game.
Yeah,
it's very good. It takes like half an hour, 45 minutes to play around. But yeah, like the image you showed me is one example. The main like title of the game is on the North American continent.
Okay, yeah, I see it right here. Okay, no, this actually makes sense why this would be centered in America, with like all the railroad tracks and stuff like that. So like the goal of this game is like so you build up a track and wait, so what? How do you win?
It's point space. So you see, like the longer your route of trains you need to put down to get to a specific place, the more points you get.
Okay, so
and at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins.
Okay, yeah, this looks I mean, it's very similar to... Okay, not similar to Settlers of Catan, but like you're supposed to build a road which helps you like connect to other places that gives you resources. This is just like one of those things where like the road is how you literally get the points.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this looks pretty interesting though. Where exactly does the strategy come into this kind of game? Like what, like is it like blocking people off? Because I'm seeing some places that have like double lines.
To a degree, yeah, like blocking people off. You have to take certain colors in order to go onto certain locations on the board.
Oh, so you're not the same color. Like, you can have different colors.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely
and different. Like, certain parts of the track on the board require certain colors to go. And obviously, like, people might be gunning for, like, the same, like, location. Like, 2 people might be going to Vancouver, so they might be aiming for a specific part of the track that like gets them there faster, that sort of thing.
The only really experience that I have with I mean, I guess with board games and card games outside of like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, like 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 those card games that you buy in like the box and it like not necessarily like Cards Against Humanity, but like that's the most basic example I can think of. Um, but I played a lot of those kind of games for my it was cousin's uh my cousin's husband's bachelor party. And he had me as his best man, and I really, I was okay. No, as his groomsman. I wasn't his best man. I still don't understand why I was a groomsman, but I mean, they put me in that position regardless. But I was allowed to go to all the stuff that the bachelor party was planning. So we saw, oh god, Chris Bodie, I think is his name. He's a famous trumpet player. Actually, really epic concert that I saw. They played a cover of Led Zeppelin's Kashmir, and they had somebody on a violin actually doing that part. And man, that was one of the best live performances that I've seen. Really awesome. But after that, we played a bunch of like card games, and we also played Settlers of Catan. So I was drinking a lot that day. I was having a lot of fun, and I literally like cut off my brother while playing this game, while playing Settlers, to the point where he couldn't do anything, and the only resource that he had was sheep. And I made sheep so much better than him that every single time he'd try to trade, I'd be like, "Oh, you're trying to trade 3 sheep? Here's 6 sheep. Give me that bushel of wheat that my brother's trying to get." Like I would literally just like overcut him in everything, and it literally my brother did not play Settlers of Catan for 5 years after this game. Just last year, it literally took a pandemic to make this happen. But my brother and 2 of my friends came by. We had some drinks. We played Settlers of Catan, and my brother finally got his vengeance. I'll just say that. After 5 years, he finally got his vengeance and was able to put me down.
Revenge is a dish best served cold, right?
After 5 years, yes. 5 years cold. But yeah, like board games and like card game. I'm a lot more of a fan of like card expansion games. Like there was this game that my friend recently introduced me to called it's a card game called Unicorns, I think. Hold on, you ever heard of this?
No,
sorry. Let me look this up real quick. It's a really weird card game. Like the art is like this is a game. Okay, Unstable Unicorns. There we go. Unstable Unicorns. That's the name of this game. It's a very tempo-based game to where the whole point of this is that you're trying to fill up your board with these unicorn cards and you win the game if they stick. Essentially, there's like minions, there's spell cards, there's like traps and stuff like that. I'm not gonna go too much into the nitty-gritties, but like one time my friend, and he knows that I stream Hearthstone and stuff like that. He was like, "I think you'll really like this game." And so I played it with like a group of like 5 of my friends. Very first time that I had played it, they had all played it, and I was playing it better than they were. Because I was just like, oh wait, this is what these cards do? So I'd like, this is a +2 in value? Okay, this works really, really well. And they're like, wait, what's going on here? You're taking this to another level that we've never done before.
Yikes.
So like, case in point, if you play card games and your friends invite you to play a card game you've never played before, you may still just stomp on them anyway. It's a really fun experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, man, like stuff on like Kickstarter though, becoming very, very popular. Like like board games as well. Like I don't know if there's any like board games that got funded on there, but there's a ton of card games and a lot of just like tabletop stuff that gets funded on Kickstarter nowadays.
I'd imagine funding is probably a bit more prevalent now that we're all in lockdown, right? Not as much money to spend on like physically buying board games, so fund them instead, you know?
I mean, even before pandemic, like people were contributing to these websites and stuff like that because they believed in the product. Like obviously there were some people that took advantage of some people's trust and stuff like that, but ever since that's happened, we've been seeing a lot more like crack down on people abusing those kind of systems. So now you can kind of trust these websites a little bit more to where if you literally want to see, like if you literally see a project you want to fund, you can do that nowadays, and then you get it when it's finally done. Like it does take a little bit of time, and it's a very adult thing to do. Like I still don't think I would contribute to a lot of these unless I really wanted the product. And a lot of people really want like these really interesting games that wouldn't have a chance if they weren't crowdfunded.
once upon a time, the first card game was probably crowdfunded to a degree, so
I mean, first
you know.
card, first quote unquote, like, okay, well, I guess it depends on your definition of a card game, but most people say that Magic the Gathering was like the first like competitive card game that has come out. And since then, it's been a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Magic yourself?
Yes. I was about to say I briefly tapped into MTG Arena when that came out. That was somewhat enjoyable. A reminder of why Hearthstone is, in my opinion, a functionally far superior game to Magic, but that's neither here nor there.
I think that Hearthstone is definitely the best online card game. I think there is there's no negotiation with it, regardless of what your thoughts are on like the balancing and stuff like that, in terms of the content that comes out, in terms of how polished everything is, in terms of how nice it is to literally look at the game. I have literally not seen another card game or another online card game to where I look at the board and I'm overwhelmed with like, oh God, what do I do? Oh, what's happening right now? I literally don't understand what I'm looking at. Hearthstone, like obviously I've been playing it a lot, but Hearthstone is like so much more colorful. It's so much more welcoming to you to literally look at what's going on the field right now. Like I look at Magic the Gathering Arena, and it does help if you know the cards, obviously, but it's not like the card goes from card form to minion form. It's still in card form. So sometimes it can be a little bit hard to see what exactly is going on because everything is a card with lines going on it. It's not as very straightforward as Hearthstone is to consume. And like Hearthstone really nails that so well, and no other game has done that.
That we're aware of quite yet. Yeah, I'd agree.
It's just really hard to make your like. I think I saw. Oh no, I remember where I saw this. Have you ever heard of a YouTuber named Nakey Jakey by chance?
I'm afraid I haven't. No.
If you like video essays that are somewhat funny, he actually has like a lot of like good breakdowns. Like one video I'll actually send you to watch later that I think you'll enjoy. It's just literally him explaining the concept of esports. It's literally just the history of esports to a degree, with like how it began, the Leffen. I'm sorry, not the Leffen moment. The Daigo moment from Street Fighter that's in there. But he just has a lot of like good video gaming points. And another video of his, it's not the esports one actually. One word, gamers. But yeah. Sorry, I just accidentally played the clip for a little bit. The people who hear the audio are gonna laugh a little bit at that, hopefully. But like I was saying, there's a video that he has where it talks about like interface and like UI with like with gaming consoles and stuff. And he brings up a point where it's like, especially with like UI and like just getting from one location to another, if someone doesn't have to think about it, it's not a problem. You don't have to fix things that people literally don't give a second thought to. And Hearthstone literally has a lot of those things where you, like you said earlier, you don't think about a lot of the like you don't have to worry about your deck not being shuffled. You don't have to worry about it not being 100% random, because in actual card games you have to do the 3 shuffle in order to have like a completely randomly shuffled deck. And it's just like little things like that. And you have
to give your opponent the deck afterwards for the final cut, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many things that are completely taken out that most people would think about in a real card game situation, but it's just not a thing in Hearthstone because you don't have to worry about it. It's all done for you.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely relieving, that's for sure.
Yeah, not having to worry about your opponent in that space. Just it literally depends on who's good at the game, who was the better player. Except sometimes RNG dictates that, but we'll go ahead and not talk about that.
I mean, it's becoming rarer as time goes on that like pure randomness is what decides the game.
Deck of Lunacy now would like to have a word with you.
Well, I didn't say like games are sometimes decided by randomness. It's just it's not common, right?
Yeah, it's not like Puzzle Box is winning games anymore. Like obviously it's rotated out, but there's nothing like Puzzle Box where like you play it, hope it wins, and then suddenly it just does. Like Solarian, yeah. I say what I guess is the closest example to that. But you can't even like Solarian's polls. I don't even feel like are the greatest anymore. Like they're still decent, but like you don't have the possibility like for box and stuff like that. Like literally one card doubled the value out of Solarian in the pool, and now that's just not possible.
I wonder if Astromancer and Solarian would just see like much less play this year for that reason, right? There's just not as much incentive as there used to be.
Yeah, like you don't even have Pyroblast anymore. I feel like that's also a big one. Like you have Fireball and that other recent card that was added that deals 2 damage and discovers a card. I think something Orb. But those are like the only.
Ruined Orb, yeah.
Yes, Ruined Orb. And those are the only like direct damage that Mage has. I guess Massive Cthulhu as well, but still, like, it's not good to go for that. Can't just randomly pull out a game out of your ass anymore.
Absolutely. So what now?
So I actually have one other question on my list is do you have any drunk stories? Like, do you have like
I've never been drunk before in my life.
Wait, really? Never.
Yeah.
Have you?
I don't like the taste of alcohol, so I've never gone out drinking ever.
Oh wow. So you just never drank anything whatsoever?
Like, I've had cider once when I was at DreamHack, because I was sharing an Airbnb with a Swedish friend of mine, and he brought cider with him for the event. But I don't like go to the bar and buy alcohol. No, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm very fussy, when it comes to drinks. Actually, like, I don't even like tea or coffee.
Wow. Okay. Like there were some times that I would like I don't really go out drinking that much. I drink at home. And whenever I do drink, I don't like the idea of being drunk. So I actually shared that sentiment with you because, like, the thing I hate the most about drinking is the recovery day, the next day. And
the hangover, yeah.
It's not even the hangover. I will literally like drink like 1 or 2 drinks, or probably 2 or 3 is a better estimate. But if I drink like 2 or 3, I'm not gonna be hungover the next day, but I am gonna be groggy. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything that I have planned. All I want to do is sleep. Don't touch me. I will hurt you. Don't touch me. Like I'm literally that irritable when I'm recovering from any amount of alcohol, and it's why I don't take shots. I can't do shots anymore. Gigging drummer Clark did too many free shots from strangers, and now it's ruined.
Fair enough.
But yeah, like, oh man, I've had a decent amount of like drunk experiences, but like all of them end the same way. Shouldn't have drank that much. Something I did, I regret. Oh man, feels bad the next day. I guess
don't do it again, etc.
I guess I'll tell you one kind of drunk story where I ended up getting my tattoos the next day. Because that was something that I remember that very, very vividly, and I would not recommend getting a tattoo while hungover. I just gotta put that disclaimer down in case anybody gets some weird ideas. Do not get a tattoo while you're hungover. It's the worst experience ever. But I don't even remember why I was out. I was just having fun with my friends back when I was at Ball State. And I completely forgot that I had to go down to Indianapolis in order to get my tattoo done because, Ball State is in Muncie, and Indianapolis is about an hour away from that location. So I had to make a whole day of it. And I wanted to make a whole day of it because I hadn't gotten ink for, like, ever since I was, Actually, it was right after my Lateralis tattoo, so it was about a year later. But I really like getting tattoos.
Yeah, I noticed after what happened last time.
Oh boy, yeah, that certain tweet where a certain Hearthstone caster is going to be on my body at some point. I don't know where yet, but I'll get into that story here in a second. But going back to the Rick and Morty tattoo when I first got it, like I got so hungover that previous night where I was apparently rolling on cars. My friend had to like be like, you need to go home now. You can't be out here anymore. Like you're too rowdy. And I don't even remember how, but I got back to my dorm room, woke up in my dorm room, and my friend was like, you had a good time last night? I'm like, dude, I feel like shit. And then he's like, we have to go to Indy, right? I'm like, no, you can't do this to me. So that entire morning was nothing but me eating like fruit, drinking Gatorade, trying not to vomit. And like, we got in my car, we were ready to go. I ended up driving like a mile or two, and I'm like, dude, we gotta stop. And he's like, why? We gotta stop. And then I ended up freaking puking, and I'm like, dude, you need to take over. I can't do this. I literally can't fucking drive right now. I'm too fucked up. So he ended up taking me. I took a nap in the back seat, and then we go to my house. We drop off stuff that I needed to, and then I still was like, I need to get this tattoo, man. Like I need this today. If I don't get this now, this guy's never gonna touch me again. And it was the same dude who actually did my Lateralis tattoo, and I was really happy with how we did this one. So like I really wanted him to touch this one because color was super important to me. And I go in there. He knows I'm fucked up, but he doesn't say anything because that's what tattoo artists do. They know when people are fucked up. I sign the release. I get the thing done. I wanted to get both parts done, like this part right here, the portal where they're coming out of it, and the other portal right here where their legs are sticking out. Love this tattoo, by the way. But I was literally like, I was so in pain and just like so like I need water, I need food, I need something in me, otherwise I'm gonna pass out after he was finished this part. So I got this done, paid him, left, came back a month later, finally got the second part done, and well, I ended up paying like an extra bit of money because I tipped him very well both times. But like, you're not really missing much not drinking alcohol, Paradox. I'll actually say that you're probably one of the luckier ones because nowadays, if my bandmate's like, hey man, want to drink a beer? Even if I'm not in the drinking beer mood, I'll be like, yeah man, I want to drink a beer. Let's have some fun. Like, it's just an unneeded peer pressure sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess like I could just go back to the story that I was telling a bit that we went on a massive tangent off of, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. I honestly forgot. Like, that's the thing about podcasting that's honestly hilarious and really, really interesting to me. Is how you'll literally be telling a story, and then somebody will be reminded of another story, and then another story, then you know, et cetera, et cetera.
So, and I was about to say, so where I left off, it was 2013, I believe, in the convention center in Vancouver, right?
Yes.
So at this point, just to remind people, I had snuck off from home at 16 years old to fly halfway around the world to watch a Pokemon trading card game tournament, which was probably not the smartest decision of my teenage years. Definitely a drunk story in some context, but anyway. I go there, I play the tournament, I meet up with Green Sheep, like, properly this time. Like, I knew him briefly at the NEC, but this time I properly met up with him and his parents. Like, all good people. I believe that would be the last time I saw Green Sheep again until at least, like, 2015, like, after he was in BlizzCon and was a fairly well-known Hearthstone player, but at this point, he was James Lure, the Pokemon player. And after that World Championship, I pretty much said to myself, yeah, okay, I'm qualified next year. Like, it's not even a question, I'm doing it. So I get back home, and then someone is selling a new set of Pokemon EX cards from the new set for a new deck. It's called a Virizion Genesect, named after the two grass legendaries of the same name. So what they do, like, we're still in the EX era, so Pokemon are big, Pokemon deal lots of damage and take 2 prizes. What Virizion EX does is for 2 energy, it deals 50 damage and then ramps 2 grass from your deck onto one of your pokes.
Ramping in Pokemon seems really good because, like, okay, so
yeah,
like,
you're only get
draw
one
is
attachment per turn.
Yeah, draw is limited, attachment 1 per turn. And like, I'm assuming Pokemon doesn't have a lot of way of like getting specific cards. Like,
it actually does. It's a lot of ways of getting specific cards. Like, there's a Professor Sycamore type card, which is once per turn you can discard your entire hand to draw 7 cards.
Even if your hand is 1 card?
Yes.
That seems really good.
It does. There's also Ultra Ball, which is discard 2 cards from your hand to search for any Pokemon from your deck and add it to your hand.
Whoa.
As well as specific things that let you search for specific item cards as well. Like, Pokemon is a very fast game outside of just regular attaching for turns. So there's that. It also has an ability that means that if your Pokemon have Grass Energy on, they can't be afflicted by special conditions. So, like, sleep, poison, etc. don't work. And then here's the bigger one, Genesect DX. What Genesect does is for 2 grass and any other energy. It's basically like Darkrai Night Spear. It's 100 to the active, 20 to the bench. And Genesect has an ability where if you attach a specific Plasma Energy card, you can drag up any of your opponent's Pokemon you want from the bench and place it active. and then you do that, and then you can hit 120. And it's a very fast, aggressive, simple deck. So I play that, get all the cards, and 2014, I'm just on a streak, just can't lose. I qualify for Worlds, I think, by the London Regional, actually. The London Regional again. And I actually win this one. I actually won the London Regional in 2014. That's how far I came. From top 4 in 2012 to actually winning it. So good transition. And then Nationals rolls around. I don't do quite as well this time. I believe I finished 10th, which is all right, but it's not like in contention for Worlds or anything. And then I was testing for the World Championship. It's June 2014. And then a few friends of mine, they messaged me. Well, no, I was messaging them, and I was like, hey guys, what are you doing? You want to play some Pokemon? And I was like, no. We've got this cool new game, Oliver. Do you want to see what it is? I was like, okay. It's called Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
Here we go. Here it starts.
here it starts, yeah. And so I play that. I didn't even really play Constructed that much for the first couple of months I got into the game. Like, most of my time was playing casual mode in Arena, where I was just like getting to know all the classic cards. And by the second week, I was hooked. Like, I wasn't even testing for Pokemon as much anymore. I was just addicted to Hearthstone. And so I would just play that. Worlds rolled around. I did all right in Worlds, nothing to run home about. But at this point, Hearthstone was my passion. I knew I loved this game and I wanted to play more of it. And the thing that drew me to Hearthstone was I didn't need to travel anywhere to play Hearthstone. Like, playing Pokemon, I need to like go to a card shop or like play in a tournament that's like at least an hour and a half train ride away. For Hearthstone, I just sit on my computer and just play it.
Just add your friend.
Yeah, and it's just infinite more time to learn the specifics of the game. And then obviously, when I see that my old pal James Luo Green Sheep is doing really well in this game, I'm like, huh. So this is something I could get good at. Now, of course, my journey into Hearthstone competition was a bit of a slow one, actually. Like, throughout 2014 and 2015, I was still like on Pokemon more because I felt like that was my main commitment. Like, I qualified to Worlds again like in 2015, but I wasn't really as interested at that point. Like, it's sort of like that, I don't know, it's sort of like that moment where you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not enjoying this as much as Hearthstone. So by 2016, I was just playing Hearthstone more and more and more. And then it comes around to, I believe, September 2016. And there was a tournament happening at the recommendation of a couple of friends of mine. Like, actually, in 2015, 16 odd, I actually met some of my first foreign Hearthstone friends that I've known ever since. So you probably don't know them. It's like two players from Sweden called Death Boost and Fluffy. And they told me about this event, the World Electronic Sports Games Qualifier. And I was like, oh, what's that about? And they were like, so here's the deal, Paradox. If you win the UK qualifier, you get to play in the Europe final. And if you finish in the top 12 of that tournament, you get an all expenses paid trip over to China. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. This is pretty interesting. I'll give it a shot. So I was working with my Swedish friend Fluffy for his qualifier. And funnily enough, his finalist opponent in that qualifier was actually Boston, the Boston for Grandmasters, and he won. And Sweden back then actually had 2 qualifier spots, so he qualified along with Orange. So you're starting to get some names in here.
Yeah, starting to figure out where these players came from.
Yeah, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, Fluffy's made it. We worked on the lineup together. I'm feeling confident. Now, of course, little Paradox over here, he knows no one in the UK scene. No one. The only person he knows is Green Sheep. And that's only because I knew him personally from Pokemon. no one in the UK scene knew who I was. Nobody. Like, Lorinda and Sol had, like, slightly heard of me because I qualified for some, like, random UK Facebook group Hearthstone event, like 5 months earlier. But even then, they weren't casting this event. The people casting this event were Ecop and I believe his name was Aquablad, like those two. And Aquablad knew me from this Facebook event. So he's like, Paradox? I remember that guy. He did well on the Facebook Hearthstone event once. Okay. And so the WST qualifier was single elimination, best of 5 conquest for the first rounds up to the top 4. And there was about 20 of people playing in the UK qualifier. So I'm in the lower bracket. And in the upper bracket has Ball Control, Jamboree, Green Sheep, and like a whole bunch of other people. Like the lower bracket only had one player at the time who was a prominence, a player called a Cypher. So I am winning my rounds, feeling fairly good. I get into top 4. Now, the qualifier back then actually had a really interesting format. It was actually best of 7 with a ban. So you needed to bring 5 classes. So it was pretty unique back then. I beat Cypher. And guess who my finals opponent was?
Okay, so you said like board control, orange.
No. Like this is the UK bracket, so obviously
the
orange
UK
isn't here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and say it's Boston because.
Well, Boston's from Sweden, mate.
Oh, my bad. Okay. Fuck it. Board control. We went up against Boar.
Ding ding! I'm against Ball Control in the finals. Yes. Now, from everyone's perspective, this is an easy win for Ball, right? Like, who's Paradox? No one knows who Paradox is.
Yeah.
Like, and like Ball Control, like this guy's like he's done well in Gfinity, he's done well in DreamHack, he's on Torpedo with Jamboree and Nest, like the best team in UK competitive Hearthstone, monster at the game. So obviously everyone's like, this is a blow. The Ball's got this. I sit down with Ball. He wins game 1 with the standard like mid-range warrior at the time, nothing special. Game 2, I play the warrior. I win. Game 3, I'm playing Miracle Malagos Rogue. Like, and Malagos was not meta at this point.
No, it was not.
Like,
not in Rogue.
This was back when like Tomb Pillager Auctioneer was a thing, right? So Malagos Sinister Strike, what he's doing in my game? No one runs those, but I ran them because I figured out that you don't need to just give Auctioneer Conceal. No. You can give Emperor Conceal.
Oh my god, that was during the Emperor meta, wasn't it? Oh my god, it started to come back to me. I think I remember this deck.
Yeah. And so what the deck did was, rather than go for the standard Miracle finish of Leroy, what it would do is it would Auctioneer Power Cycle into Emperor Conceal, so your Emperor doesn't die, and then you go Malagos double Sinister Strike Eviscerate for lethal, where you can also like Malagos prep Fan as a board clear as well.
Back in the day when Fan was actually played. Is Fan still in the core set? And even if it is, like I don't even know if it's going to see any play.
Yeah, I mean this was back when like prep discounted by 3 mana.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I go up against Boar. He's playing Druid, and then I go and do some nonsense and get a turn 2 A8 Van Cleef while clearing his board. I destroy him in game 3. I'm 2-1 up. And then it's Mirroring Shaman Mirror in game 4. I destroy him in that, so I'm 3-1, 1 game to go. And then we all know the story here. I beat him in game 5 as well. 0-1 to 4-1. I booked my qualifying spot to WSG, and the UK community was in an absolute uproar. No one knew who I was. Nobody. Like I know everyone in the UK community now, but like Green Sheep, Nest, Cypher, Jamboree, Ball Control, Hello, Leroy. I knew none of these people in 2016. None of them. I had no idea how much of an upset I caused because I top 8 at the UK National Championship before. Like, I've been here. I know what this pressure is like, but they don't know. For them, it was a complete upset. And so after that, I then got my qualifying spot to Kiev, Ukraine. And then in October, I flew out there. And in this qualifying tournament, there were so many names in this event that back then were unknowns, but now are nutty. Like, the way it worked in WC was as a group style format. There were 4 groups. So Group A had, I want to say, Fluffy, and like a few other people. But the group I was in was evil. How bad do you want to imagine it being?
Okay, so what year was this?
2016.
2016, before people were known. I'm just gonna start saying like a bunch of people that I know were really really good during that year. So I think that was when FGK was starting to get people. So like Fino would have been in that. Let's see, I want to just say Orange because Orange is always like something that like he's just in every single competitive event that I usually see. Probably other players around that time would have been like oh god, I can't really think. Oh wait, what about Muzzy and Firebat? Firebat was actually known as the world champion.
This was an EU event, so they're out.
Okay, yeah, so they're NA.
Yeah.
What did
anyway, you weren't too far off the mark. Like, my group was Bunny, Fino, Orange, me, and a Finnish player called No Rage.
Okay, so I got
and
the Fino
in order to qualify, you need to get top 3 in your group. No one knew who Fino was back then. Like, even Orange has said this was the first time he met Fino. He's even come out and said that he didn't even like Fino that much when he first met him, and look how time has flown.
Yeah, now they're like best friends, and they were actually on a team for the longest time together. Like, wait, hold on, was Fino part of Tier 1 or whatever that team was?
The Korean one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking of the other team.
But this is like way in the future. In 2016, no one knew who Fino was. So, and like other people in that tournament were like Zixo, like a whole bunch of like even like people were there also for playoffs as well, because playoffs was happening at the same time. So like there was also people like Dr. Hippie and Nyman. They're also just hanging out because they were from Russia and Kazakhstan, and the event was being held in Ukraine, so it's not that far of a distance for them.
Dr. Hippie, I haven't heard that name since 2018.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like...
But still, crazy stack lineup. I finished 3rd in my group, beating out Fino. And in order to get my top 12 spot, I had to play off against Nyria. And I'm sure you remember who Nyria is, right?
I vaguely remember the name. I think you might need to refresh my memory.
He's like the number 2 in Ukraine after Kalento.
Okay. Like in just like on ladder or in terms of just like streaming?
Well, both.
Oh, okay.
But he was really good. And I lost by 1 game, which was the mid-range shaman. But seeing that esports stadium for the first time that the event was being held and watching the frankly ludicrous crowds for Dota 2 and having Fluffy, who was there with me, like explain like what esports was, I was like, yeah, no, this is the same feeling I felt all those years ago when I was walking into that venue in London playing Pokemon. I was like, yep, I'm playing this for the long haul.
It's a good way to make it full circle.
Yeah. And ever since, I've been just in and out of competitive Hearthstone doing who knows what. Like, if it's not casting, it's analysis work, or if it's not that, it's competing directly.
But yeah, dude, like,
that's pretty much where I come to now. Like, obviously, I've had like some successes since then, but that's just the main intro for me as a player.
Yeah, you pretty much went through like almost your entire competitive card game journey, like when you started in the Pokemon scene, like when you were a kid. So like it just kind of shows how like passions can somewhat develop as time goes on, but we could literally like still like the same thing. Like you still like card games, you still like that sense of the community that you seem to find. Because I think you from just from talking from you, I can kind of see like you definitely like the strategy and stuff like that, but you also like the community that is centered around card games in particular, because it's very. I say this a lot about Hearthstone, but it's just a fact about card game communities in general, is that like nobody can know everything what's going on, so you're kind of dependent on knowing other people. And that's also the beauty of it, because it's easy to make friends in a card game because you're just discussing about possibilities, and it's not like like a first person shooter where you can get like angry with somebody because they ended up killing you faster than them, where it's like you can really learn from other people in Hearthstone and from just other card games in general. And it's that community that really just solidifies people in these kind of games. It's why I'm still in this game, is because people are awesome in this community.
Yep. I was about to say, the main person who's helped me out so much as of late is Lorinda. If it wasn't for Lorinda, I wouldn't be doing the reports I make or writing down all of the analyses I do. Like, he is probably the biggest benefit that I have for keeping me mentally healthy for the past at least year and a half, and just in general, just being a wonderful person.
Good guy, Lorinda.
And I know Neil probably won't watch this, so he won't be too sappy when he hears this. But I've said all this to him directly anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he's if he is watching this. What's up, Lorinda? You're still one of my favorite casters, man. I remember back in the day, or I ended up talking with him at DreamHack Denver, actually, the tournament that I got 24th in. And he and I just literally talked for a half hour. But I don't even remember 100% what we talked about. We started like, hey, man, I'm wanting to get into Hearthstone. I asked him for like some advice. And then suddenly we were just talking and just, having a really chill time. And again, the Hearthstone community, everybody feels like they are very, very welcoming. And they're like, yeah, man, I'll talk with you for like 10 minutes. I got time. Like they're really, it's a really humbling community. Very humbling community.
Mm-hmm.
And so humble to the point where I'm perfectly fine with getting Darroch Brown tattooed on me to some degree. So to finish up that tattoo story, what I plan on doing since I lost the bet, so those who don't know, I mean, it's still somewhat recent news, but I made a tweet being like, if I get 1,000 likes on this tweet, I will get a Hearthstone tattoo. I will get a tattoo of the comment with the most likes. And I wanted it to be Hearthstone related because I wanted to be inspired for a Hearthstone tattoo to make. This was the idea behind this tweet. I didn't think it'd explode, which it did. I didn't think it'd explode, but I wanted to get inspired for some Hearthstone tattoo ideas. So about like, so I posted it at night. I woke up. It was like around like 200 likes. I was like, all right, cool. This is going pretty well. Then suddenly out of nowhere, entered Darroch Brown. He posted this picture I will show right here of him. It's a picture that Captain Kitty made on Twitter of him dressed up, not him dressed up, but photoshopped as King Togwaggle. And well, that comment won. That comment itself has like essentially 80 to 90% of the people that liked the post saw that comment, liked his comment, and then also liked the tweet. So, what am I going to do? It's a good question. I want to get it done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a collage of all of like the minions that had the most votes and the ones that I actually would like on me. So like Marabi's going to be on there. Norse Dormu's going to be in it. Penflinger, and I think one other card. But I'm going to have like a collage of those cards. And I don't know where I'm going to put it yet on my body, but I'm going to have a collage made. Togwaggle is going to be in the center, and it's going to be him going like this in the Darroch Brown pose. So am I actually going to get Darroch Brown on me? I'm still deciding that. But I'm at least going to get Togwaggle in that position in the middle, surrounded by the other Hearthstone cards in that post in order to justify getting that tattoo. I don't know what the picture is going to be yet, but the moment that I have an artist to work with, I need to like throw down like $500 to get this thing made. Like it's a very detailed thing I want to get done. And then I need to get it tattooed. So this is going to be a process. But the moment that I know what it is, I'm going to let people know so they can be, they can know what's actually going to be on my skin. But Darroch is the biggest memer in the Hearthstone community. And, well, it was...
He's very good at his job.
It was a good laugh, to say the least, yes. It's where I get a lot of my motivation from to make the tweets that I do, is because Darrock Brown will make some stupid joke, and I'm like, I want to be the stupid joke guy too. So if you ever read my tweets and wonder why I made it.
Well, it would explain why you hog the trolling clips every week.
I do what I can, man. I do what I can. Hopefully I'll get on there next week with my APM Mechathune combo. I'm really hoping that will make it. I loved that combo. Oh my god. APM decks. Oh man. Well, we are reaching about the 2.5 hour mark, and I am out of topics. So Paradox, you've been an absolute wonderful guest. I loved having you on here. Is there any way that you would like to use this last couple of minutes? Like, you could talk about like what you do. If there's like links people can check out, like, go ahead, get self-promote.
Well, I mean, I assume you post my Twitter stuff, right?
Yes,
That's pretty much the best way to get in touch with me.
I will put any links that you want in the in the description. So if you have anything you're trying to plug specifically, I can help you out with that.
No, really. Like, I post all of my extended stuff on my Twitter anyway, right? Like,
yeah.
So I'd say that's just the simplest way to see what I'm up to. I don't really have any of the major platforms I use at the moment.
Yeah, well, guys, if you want to check him out on Twitter, his links will be down below. If you're ever looking for essentially the go-to for Masters Tour information, I cannot recommend anybody else aside from Paradox and Wicked Good, because they do quite literally the backbreaking work of going through the data, figuring out what works, and actually writing essays, or I mean, I guess like paragraphs, like explaining why you should go for these decisions. So if you're looking for a great place for Open Cup statistics, this is definitely the guy to look up. Absolutely loved having you on this episode, Paradox. If you guys enjoyed this content, feel free to like the YouTube video and to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Or if you're on Spotify, do whatever it is Spotify users do. I don't think there's anything particular, but I'm still not on there, and we will figure that out. But in any case, Paradox, loved having you on. Any final words, my guy?
Thank you for having me, Clark, and I hope that the next guest will have more things to discuss than me. I feel like I haven't taken up as much of your time as you're hoping for.
Oh, no, man. Not at all. It was a great pleasure to have you. I love the card game stories. Like, I love figuring, like, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. I love figuring out why people got into Hearthstone. And we just learned today that you were a massive Pokemon fan, and then suddenly you figured out that Hearthstone is like essentially what you were trying to get out of the Pokemon scene, but just a lot more accessible to you.
Pretty much, yeah.
But anyway, this was Paradox today, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you next time on the Hearth and Home podcast. Thank you so much for watching.
See you later, guys.